I want to say that today was the first day for the school leadership teams that are back for the 11th month, and we had yesterday actually the first day. Today we met and going over some data review, setting our initiatives for the coming year, and doing some very specific informational exchange about how we're going to continue, and you'll learn more about that during the regular board meeting. So I know that y'all know, but I'll just say it just to make sure we're on record of saying it. The purpose of the workshop is for informational purposes, to share out information about our budgetary process, budgetary numbers. No decisions or votes can be taken at the workshop. I know you all are aware of that, but just want to make sure everybody was on the same page and everybody was understanding. The absolute purpose of this is to make sure that you see it, the community sees it. If you have any information, questions, or anything we can help with or bring understanding to, we absolutely want to make sure we do that as well. Tonight, what you're going to see, we're going to start out, we got a handful of directors that are responsible for large chunks of money that encompass very important parts of our district. And these directors are going to share information with you about the budgets that they are responsible for. And many of them are grants. And then we're going to wind up, and I'll come back to that in just a moment, we'll wind the evening up with regard to the workshop with Mr. Adams, bringing all of it together with regards to our state FDOE, Department of Education, student initiatives with regard to the money that we receive from the state and the FEFP. So just to kind of give you some context, we do have in front of you, it's online, and we also have printed versions of the order that we're going to go through. And just to give you a heads up, and I'll give you kind of a prelude to what you're going to see. Tonight, we'll, not to give you the spoiler, but I'll go ahead and give you the spoiler. With regards to a district today in the state of Florida, Hendry is very strong. I contend that we may very well be one of the strongest financially seated districts today in the state of Florida. We are that way for several reasons. We are that way because we have had some very good, high quality, sound advice from our CFOs over the past several years, all the way up until today. We have been very frugal minded as a district with where we put our resources, where we put our money, how we spend our money, when we spend it, and what we do with it. We were very good with our ESSER dollars with regard to offsetting things that we knew were going to be big expense items, and so we were smart and done that within the perimeters of the ESSER budget that we were allowed to do. Today, as we move forward, the common practice that we have is to be frugal minded. Today, one of the things we talked about with our school leaders is we're a district. We have needs. We expect them to use the money to purchase what they need for their needs, but not more than their needs. So the point and the tone is look, we're going to buy what we need. We're not going to buy things we don't need. We benefit none from warehousing or stocking or spending it because it's June. If you don't spend it, you won't get it back or anything like that. And so our leaders have gotten their minds wrapped around that. And as a result, you're going to see a very healthy district tonight. And it's proportionate. I mean, there are bigger districts with billions of dollar budgets, but it has to do with the reserves and where we are with the reserves and what percent reserve that we have. And what you're going to see tonight, I think you'll be very proud of, and a very strong position that Hendry's in. However, and we can talk about this more at the end. Just like we're in a very strong position, we're also in a very scary position in a very scary time right now. I know all of you follow news and information. Right now, the Federal Department of Education has held back 5 of our title grants that we used. Has been a staple in this and many districts for a very long time. They pay for 72 humans that we have in Hendry County schools, as well as many programs that we use for supplemental education reasons. We don't know at this point in time, number one, how long the review is going to take, nor the outcome of the reviews. Does that mean we're going to be cut? Does that mean we're going to be eliminated? It could be anything along that continuum. That has a huge impact in Hendry County schools, as well as every other school district, but obviously we're concerned about Hendry County schools, right? And so that has huge impacts and implications to us and how that happens. So tonight you're still going to see, even though those budgets are frozen and under review, you're still going to see a proposal as if we're going to get that budget. If that changes, if we don't, or if it gets reduced, we obviously will adjust on our end as well. And so don't think that because of what you see where we anticipate spending the money, that will happen unless the money shows up and we get the money. So I just want to be sure that we're clear about that. Also know that it could be, obviously our greatest hope is that we get the review, could possibly be reductions, but yet we're able to move forward. However, the real gravity of the situation is that we could be very well very, I don't know what the right vernacular, we could be very hurt by the drastic outcome of that. If we have to take 72 humans off our payroll and lose some very, very incredible programs that we use as supplemental education for our students. Part of the academic outcomes that you're going to see later this evening are a direct result of those folks in the programs, and we know that it would take a toll. However, I'm only telling you that for informational reasons. I swore an oath to this date, raised my right hand, that I would follow the rules and the guidelines and the laws, and I will uphold, the direction of the Florida Department of Education. That's exactly what I'll do. One of the things that our staff has committed and has proven is that they are up to any challenge that we bring, and we will be successful, and we will make it happen one way or the other. All of that is just informational groundwork for what you're going to see tonight. Tonight, to start with, you're going to see the directors, and we're going to start with Mr. Clay. Mr. Clay handles transportation and school safety for us, and part of that is at 5:30, or 6 o'clock. At 5:30 this evening in LaBelle, the Department of Transportation is doing a Hendry transportation meeting, and I've asked him to attend that on our behalf so that he can get some inside knowledge about what roadways, improvements, and things like that, so that we can plan accordingly as a district as well. So we've asked him to go first, and you're going to see him exit so that he's not being rude or he's not hungry like he normally is. He's just going to a whole other meeting to represent Hendry County Schools. If you have questions, what I would ask, just so that we can get through this, if you would let them get through the presentations, please jot down the questions you have, and then we can ask them at the end, just so that the flow would go good and we all get the same information. Something you want to ask may get answered, through the process of the presentation. So, with that in mind, I'll let Mr. Clay get started.
Thank you, guys. Mine's been pretty short and sweet. So when I took over the safety and security area, we really only have one grant coming in at that time, which was the hardening grant. And the hardening grant gets adjusted each year. And so I just kind of went backwards to kind of show you what we've done from the 23-24 year. We had $109,172 obviously. And what we've been doing is taking pretty much all of our hardening money and trying to complete our camera projects that were started prior to me coming. So that year, all that money went to supplement what we paid to get the Clewiston High School camera project completed, which was about 3 or 4 times that. So it's not like we've been able to do multiple projects with the money the state's given us. It's all been kind of put to supplement other projects that we were already doing for the district to try to make up some of the money that we were spending on those projects. The very next year, the 24-25 year, we only got $105,000. Again, like I told you, it fluctuates. And that money has went towards the LMS project that is in the process of being completed now. Again, it's an upgrade of their cabling system and their cameras. All that money is going through cameras. The cabling system was something that was going through with IT. But when they go in and upgrade the school and put all the new cabling systems in, it was the best time for us to upgrade the cameras. It saved a lot of money for the district, so that's what we've chosen to do. We seem to be able to get at least one project done per summer, which kind of aligns because we get one hardening grant per year as well. This year's hardening grant, sad enough, is still not out. Based on the same simple information that Mr. Swindle was telling you, there's a lot of variables out there. We really don't know what we're going to get or how much we're going to get. But I will tell you that our next cabling project, by my understanding, is going to be Central Elementary School. So more likely than not, I will be going after Central Elementary School's camera project, and that's where that money will go. However much they do give. Pretty easy, simple task for me. I don't have to try to spread it and go a lot of places with it, but that's kind of what we're doing with it until we get those camera projects completed, and then depending on where the state's at that point in time, we'll address where we can put that money to better move us forward. Okay. Now, since that time, this year, for the first time, we received a DTMC, okay, which is your threat management. So it is the District Threat Management Coordinator. We received a grant from DOE for this position. It is supplementing this position. It's one of the many hats that I wear. So what we were able to do in communicating with finance and everything is we took that money, because that's a hat that I wear, we put that into my salary. We took money out of my salary and we're able to make and help support the assistant position we got with Anna E, which God knows you guys need her because she helps me. Okay, and she's done a wonderful job of trying to organize all and keep all the different balls we have juggled up in the air under control and make sure we're not dropping any. So again, that salary is a simple salary. That grant is simply a salary supplement, which goes towards my salary because that's another title that I hold, and we take care of it, and then we just supplement it, made her position out of the excess for my salary. that is pretty much the short and sweet of what I have for the grants. I do not have a lot of grants out there. I did not take on any grants when I took over transportation. I will tell you my hopes and dreams are, we've looked at several different grants that we might be applying for during the next school year, and I hope to be able to get some more grants and supplement some things. We're also looking at some transportation grants, but a lot of those grants are matching grants, and again, with the unknown status of where we're at right now, we really can't jump into something we've got to match until we know what we have.
Where are you spending sales tax money and safety?
Okay, so I was told to talk about grants, so I don't have that on here, but sales tax money for me, I'm good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Sales tax money for me comes into fencing, okay? We use a lot of sales tax money when it comes to our fencing. We also use that to supplement these camera projects, so a good example, you've seen I made $100,000 and some odd for the Clewiston project. The Clewiston project was $400 and something thousand. So that was also supplemented by absent sales tax money. We also do a lot of what we would call our entry points or access control. So the automatic doors you're seeing getting put in place and so forth, that's all being supplemented by sales tax money. Sales tax money has also helped us in our radios, our improvement for the school radio systems, and a few other projects like that.
What portion, like approximate portion? I was shocked when I was looking through Mr. Adams' presentation about how much we've taken in sales tax money. Like how much, what percentage of that, estimated percentage of that do you think that you're getting for safety?
I don't have that estimate. I would have to kick back to Mr. Adams because he's the one who divides that and basically tells out to who has.
You just like 4%?
Pardon
You
me?
say like percent, what percentage?
Yeah, like like, are you getting like a third of it or?
I'm not sure, nor do we divide it up that way. It's more needs based, and so we don't really say you're gonna get a third. We go more based on the needs and where the capital things need to be, not necessarily just harding, but there are other things that can go in that as well.
A good approximate amount would be a third of the sales tax budget is received for safety.
Okay.
And that could be off a little, but that's, estimation.
That's what as he's talking and I'm thinking about it, it's popping up, so.
And like I said, a lot of that has gone for our improvements of our perimeters, our fences, replacing fences that are already damaged. Those are things that would have came out of your capital outlay before, that were coming out of Mr. Buson's side of the budget, that would now come back in the same.
Y'all do, I think you know, but yesterday was the new Commissioner of Education's first day on the job. And he has laid out basically two initiatives that he will carry forward. One of them is to continue the academic drive and academic growth in the state of Florida. And the second one is to continue safety and school safety parameters. If you look at the first two things on our strategic plan, we're perfectly aligned then with what the state and the new commissioner, their initiatives are. So we know that we're on the right track with that regard. The other thing that I would say, and we're never are we perfect, right? But I think that we're in really, really good shape. A lot of the things that Mr. Clay has done has put Hendry at the forefront of being a safe school and safe things that we do. In fact, Mr. Clay and I were asked to present this summer at the school safety conference over a lot of things that we do, how we've done it. We've got a ton of questions, and so when you look at where Hendry is, we have done a phenomenal job of safety. We've got a lot to do, don't get me wrong, but we're very, very comfortable with the fact that we've invested well and to keep our students and employees safe on a day-to-day basis and get them back home every day. So I'm very proud of the work that we've done in safety.
I'll just add to that, that with your guys' support, like you said, we went toe-to-toe with much, much larger agencies than us, and almost everything they said they were doing, we were also doing a little ahead of them in many cases. And, I'm leaving tomorrow to go up to another program to advise them on what we're doing so that they can start building other structures around some of the things that we're doing. So your support for us has been huge, and, Mr. Swindle's desire to make sure we're not just meeting the mark, but we're exceeding it, and we're really ahead of the game in many of the projects that are coming down. So a lot of times when the state picks out these new laws and says this must happen, we're kind of already there. So,
What are we looking like for safety with our school buses? As far as tracking kids on and off, camera systems, things of that, I mean, where are we at with that?
That is a go. In fact, we kicked out yesterday, we kicked out the new program, which parents will be registering online, and we got a lot of positive feedback on that already. They should, unless something crazy happens, we've already started during summer school, they were scanning on and off. They should be scanning on and off when they start the beginning of the school year. Parents will be getting apps that they can use to monitor their students and kind of know where they're at. We will know, we we can do a printout on who's on a bus at any given time. It also tells us, the speeds, direction of travel, what's happening with the bus. But I can even tell you usually the engine speed and the heat temperature or the transmission temperature of the bus based on the program.
Wow. So we're expecting that to be
That's operational
online right now, I mean, this
It's
year.
online right now, it's working right now. Obviously, we're gonna have to go through the process of training our parents on how to properly use everything, but we've already started kicking those out. IT's been working overtime. Renee Gomez, he's just killing it, and they kicked it out yesterday, and they've had hundreds of responses already from parents that are already registering their students and signing up for these apps. Obviously, I expect us to have a few kinks in the road here and there, but as far as I'm looking, it's moving smooth.
We should be full operational this school year.
Yes, sir.
With that on both sides of the county.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. I love it.
Are we gonna have, so I know that there's like parents who don't do social media, or are we gonna have like areas, I know there's always like bus setup, or the bus route signups and stuff at the open houses. Are we gonna have like maybe some technology there to help these parents who don't already have their kids signed?
Thanks to a wonderful collaboration from Ms. Duncan and her team. We've already had a meeting on that. They've already relayed to us some of their concerns. We're in the process of setting up, again, Renee has set up a guideline he's going to be teaching. He's already taught the route managers and their staff, and they're going to be teaching the drivers, and we're going to be trying to send out a minimum of 3 drivers to each site or an open house to help assist with that. And each school is going to be supplying some laptops or some Chromebooks there to help them, but really it's a scan in reference to they would take their phone and scan the QR code, but we are going to have people available there for the people that are not so technologically savvy like myself, or that maybe don't have a cell phone or something like that, so they can walk them through and help them get their students registered. And that's every student, whether you're on transportation or not, every student in the school will be registering on this, because that's how we're going to be able to report our state data on who's riding the bus based on who's not riding the bus. And then any kid during the year decides they need to ride a bus, it's just a simple change, you click on the computer, and now they're registered to ride the bus.
Along that same vein, I want to add that we're also going that way in the schoolhouses themselves. So the forms that are important are going to be online. I think there will be an option this year to do it in paper, but we're going to really encourage everybody to go online and go as much paperless as possible. Or ultimately, we hope by next year that we're paperless. And so the school registration, if they're new, nurse form, yellow form, and all that's going to be online where the parents can go right on and do that. All communication is going to be through a new platform with the parents as well. So you guys will be getting trained on that, and you'll be able to get the app on your phone where you can get all the school information that's coming.
I would ask a favor, and as far as like the communication, I found that people like on analytics on my social media pages, like I run analytics apps on it to see like the engagement. And if you have a video and you're verbally telling people, you get more view, like you get more engagement on that. And so, like I read the stuff that came out about signing up for the bus app, but I didn't realize that everybody needed to do it, whether your kid was planning to ride the bus or not. So maybe just a quick little video to explain, hey, everybody needs to do this. And
I do know that I believe that Renee and Annie, my assistant, are working on a video,
Okay,
both English and Spanish, because we did get some people, but that was great feedback. And if you get any feedback from your constituents out there that are telling you any concerns they may have, please give me a holler so that we can try to work on that, because again, we got to adjust it as we go. So any of that, let me know. And maybe before you ask, I'll say it. Next school board meeting, if all goes well, I'll have a bus here. I'll have everything here for you to be able to see it work. So I think it's in the bell, so it actually be in the bell. But I'll bring the bus out and let you guys see how it works and actually demo the program. Correct?
cool, thank you.
So now, there's times that kids have to switch buses or whatever. They may have to go home with a cousin or a friend or whatever. Is there a process they're going to have to go through to be able to ride a separate bus?
They're still going to follow the same process of having to turn a letter in, because we want the schools to know what their students are doing, because there may be conflicts. But we want them to be able to deal with any conflicts. But then once the school has approved, yes, the route managers and the drivers can adjust that to make sure they log that student on the bus.
At a one time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Catching up with technology.
Can I give some unsolicited feedback? Sure, I love doing it. So on the sales tax money for like the safety, I hate paying taxes for anything. I hate paying taxes. But I think it makes it more palatable if you're saying such and such, this is how much money your sales tax has gone into making our schools safe. Because like, I feel like that's just like universal, everybody supports that. And so letting people know, like, you know, we're collecting the sales tax, and this is how much we're putting into ensuring, you know, that your schools and your physical campuses and buses are safer environments for our kids.
That could be a good blurb on different places. We do some of those. I don't know if y'all seen some of the signs and some of the projects we have. Your half-cent sales funds, this, you know, and stuff. So we try to do things like that. But we can put some dollars and cent stuff out there in social media blurbs. That'd be good.
I just think that is, you know, particularly when you're looking at, we've got our Congress is on a national, and then we're looking at our state legislature is like going after, you know, they're ready to doge everything and cut taxes and cut everything back. Like if you tell people, because I think a lot of folks they just see the income taxes they're paying or property taxes they're paying, but and sales taxes they're paying, but when you show them that like this is what we're, you know, I think a lot of people think it gets frivolously spent.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when you show them like we're keeping kids safe here with this money, thank you Hendry County, and this is the this is the investment you're making into kids with your sales tax dollars. I think that it eases that pain of paying the taxes.
I have no problem. I'll work with the superintendent and we'll get something put together and pass the wishes. Any other questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Clay. Good job. 24 minutes, but who's counting?
Sorry.
I agree.
Ms. Rosa.
14 different pictures. Thank you. Stand up for this reason.
I started at 3:30 is when I started this time. My talking counted as
Thank you,
well.
guys.
Be safe.
I'm just gonna stay over here because I don't know. I can see you better this way. All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit about federal programs and our different grants. If you can scroll it, if you don't mind. Oh, you can, so I have to go do it. No problem. I mean, let's see this way.
And I will say that this is the main crux of the grants that I was referring to. That's on hold from the Federal Department of Education and under review. So you're going to see, this is where you're going to see a lot of plans, but many of these grants are on hold and under review.
Are these all federal?
The ones that she's going over, yes, sir.
All right, so when you're looking at Title I school-wide programs, this is not one of the ones that they froze, but I will tell you that after Dr. Mundy submitted it, 2 days later, they sent out a new award letter, and it was $259,000 less, okay? Yeah. So they didn't freeze this one, but it is $259,000 less. Right now, until the state sends it back to us, we can't do the amendments and the budget amendments for that, okay? But because of that, a little bit of this information changed, and I'll let you know which ones did, okay? So when you look at this, a lot of it is going to salaries. I'm going to tell you that right now. A lot of it. It does require a director and an assistant director to keep track of all the money, all the everything that you have to do compliance-wise with the grant, right? So you have 50% of each of the director and the assistant director salaries come from that. We have 50% of an office manager come from that, and then obviously we got to pay the FICA, the group insurance, the retirement for everybody, and the office manager as well. So it's giving you all the totals of what we're paying out. Okay. We also support our elementary and middle schools with 100% of 8 reading resource teachers. One at each elementary school, like I said there, and one at each middle school, and that is the total of their salaries, right? Then we have 17 paraprofessionals for elementary and middle schools. That is their salary. And then when you take their FICA, there's even more, right? There's the retirement, the group insurance, it's telling you there for the reading resource teacher. And the paras. This is where we're going to have to amend because we did get that cut and because we needed a prepaid teacher, but the numbers are not where they're at right now. It's gonna be,
Ms. Press,
yes.
enrollment numbers or finance numbers?
I'm sorry?
When
Enrollment.
you said the numbers aren't where we need it right now?
VPK.
And the enrollment was down, so we
Enrollment was
will not
down?
use that
Yes,
extra
ma'am.
teacher that we'd allotted.
Yeah, so you know, each of those classrooms takes 20 kids right now. And right now, each of the, not all the classrooms are at 20 kids for right now. I'm not saying that we're not gonna get more kids, right? But they'll be put into those classes where there isn't 20 kids.
All right, let's chat after the meeting. I have some resources that hopefully strum up some BPK enrollment if that's necessary or possible.
Well, one of the things that we were going to do to accommodate the cut was not hire that teacher,
Okay.
so that we would fall
So
in
it would
line.
go to 65, and 65% of their salary is gonna be cut. I mean, 65% of the salary is gonna come from Title I Part A, and it'll be 12 BPK teachers with the 14 paras, and again, if you look at it there, that's all the amount, along with the FICA, the group insurance, the retirement teachers, and the professionals. Okay? So that is another area where, if, you know, if it's $259,000 that's being cut, we can amend that. Okay? We have 50% of 2 college and career advocate recruiters for the middle schools. Why do we call them recruiters as well? Because 50% of their salary comes from the migrant grant, which I'll talk about in a little while. Okay, so those ladies are there to help at the middle schools. They help with everything pretty much, with parents, with the kids, with homeless, giving out supplies, so they play an important role in the school as well. But again, we're talking about the salaries and how much of the grant goes into salaries, right? We're continuing with the Title I Part A, right? We also have 5% of our migrant advocate recruiters out of the homeless set aside. Why? Because they also take care of homeless students, right? If the school is calling and they need for them to go to that house and find out about the kid, they can do that as well. We give them, they come to our offices, we give them supplies, you know, God knows, sometimes even food banks we have to take them to. But so they help with that as well. And again, it's 5% of their salary, and it's also the 500 retirement for that. Not the group insurance, because that comes from the bigger rent. Administrator for the homeless set aside. Title I Part A has a homeless set aside. Even though we get a homeless rent, and you'll find out a little later about that, in the requirements for Title I, under an area of focus, homeless household has to have a little set aside there. So, and you pay for an administrator that helps for that as well. 10% for a family engagement liaison out of the parent-family engagement mandate, right, that is set aside for schools and the LEA. So we save that money because the schools themselves have to have a certain amount of money from Title I to go for parent-family engagement. And then, but the district also has to have a certain amount of money to go for parent-family engagement events. Yes, sir.
Okay, give me a little quick old family engagement, or what would it be?
Like the literacy, those reading literacy nights, right? So the schools may want to pay their professionals for coming to help with the literacy night, right? Or books that they want to give the kids, right? But then they can also reach out to us and say, hey, we want this, like we want a reading kit, right? We want you to come and show them how to use it. So if we hire teachers, you know, they get paid from all that for that, right? So, but parent-family engagement is big because they're supposed to be teaching the parents how to help their kids at home. Right, so it's not just a fun for all thing, right? So I hate to say that, but
I've been to one, Rev, like out in Montura.
Yeah.
And then they pull the parents aside
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, these are the reading apps. And like help the parents like download them either to their iPads or to their phones. What was the one that we footsteps to brilliance, like.
Footsteps to Brilliance, and we showed them how to use it.
And how to use that, which is like guided for the kids. And then the kids like did like literacy adjacent activities, whether parents were learning how to do things, like to help the kids. It was pretty cool.
We did one in Harlem. We did one that was very science-based in Harlem, and Mr. Swindle went and talked to the parents about the importance of parent involvement. And then that same night, we also introduced them to the different apps, and we had, like our department, right, federal programs, our migrant recruiters and everybody, they were there, and if parents had devices, like even their phone, we showed them how to download that app, and their kid can use the app, and it helps them with their literacy skills. So you try to teach them something, you know. And again, that's part of what Hendry County, the LEA, right, which is us, the district part that we do. But then the schools have their events as well. They have their events as well. And you know, more and more, you know, we kind of emphasize you guys have to teach the parents something. So I know I've seen a lot of wonderful pictures where they have different centers, and the parents go to the different literacy centers and play games and do things with their kids to promote literacy. So that's part of what needs to happen. That's part of the ESSA, you know, that every student should see that we have to have that money
And
set
that's the one
aside.
on hold, that's on hold also?
So this one is not specifically on hold, but we lost a whole bunch of funding out of
No,
it.
not this one yet.
But that's a specific reason that, you know, if you notice, we were at 35 to 37% third grade literacy forever. Last year, we went up to the state average of 52. This year, we're humming right around that same number. One of the reasons why is because of the extra things like that we're doing, the extra engagement, the extra everything, the extra humans, and we are at threat of either being cut severely back or losing it. So that is where we are. That's the gravity of where we are. And we know that it's going to take a toll if that comes to fruition.
And also for Title I Part A, we have private schools, and they receive their equitable share. So that means when that money comes in, the very first thing we do, we have to do this calculation on for our public schools on free and reduced lunch, but we also have to go in and survey our private schools that are nonprofit, and the Florida has a list for us, right? And we have to set aside, automatically from the top, it sets aside the amount that we need to give those schools, all right? And we had 3, and now we have 4 of those private schools. Because we have a really small one, believe it or not, in Flagler at the church there. At Turner? Yeah, we have, and you know, I meet with them, and a lot of theirs is just more supplies for kids, because they're very small right now, but if they continue to grow, then more money will be going to them as well. Okay? Title I Part A also supplements with these programs. We supplement with Brain Pop and iReady and the Renaissance AR programs, right? And you can see the cost there for each of those programs.
They're very expensive.
They are expensive.
And that's what I mean by, you know, there are some very impactful programmatic things that could be lost. And so we're holding our breath.
And then we have the indirect cost, right? And the indirect cost is 6.37% of the total amount. And expenses that are not directly tied to a specific program, but are necessary for the general operation of the school system. So that is, goes to the financials and things like that. Okay. So it's that back end people that help us out too. I call it. So that's pretty much Title I Part A. Like I said, that one was not on the chopping block, or is not posted, but it did reduce by $259,000. Okay. But as you can see, a lot of salaries are going in there. The VPKs are, to me, one of the most important, and I know that previous superintendent, that was a big focus, right? And when you go look at the application itself and you fill it out, it does say, what are you doing for VPK? And so we are addressing that need, right? And we really do have a really good VPK program, and I won't even go there because we have an exceptional one. Because I go to meetings for VPK, and it's like, the other districts, they're like at a loss at how we even do it, right? But I think it's because we do fund it. All right, now, migrant. Migrant is about $1 million right? And that comes from recruiting families, but not just families, we also recruit those H-2A workers that are called out-of-school youth, that are between the ages of 17 and 21 and don't attend school, but go to work. And so we receive money for them because we do interview them, we do recruit them, we do put them in, the system that they need to go into, and we take things to them as well. In the past, we've had a teacher, Miss Cutler, she would go out into the camps and she would teach them English on Saturdays. And, at one point, we can even do that with that, is what I'm trying to say. But as the money's been dwindling because the migrant families have not been coming, or some of them just stay, they don't go back and forth to different states to work farming, agriculture, or fishing, then they lose that status of being migrant. Okay?
What's an estimate of like our typical number of H-2A workers that we're servicing? Is it a large number?
Actually, in the past few years, that's been larger than the amount of migrant families that we have. And I do have a number that we ended with last year in May. I can share that with you, Stephanie. I don't know it at the top.
I mean,
But we do have a number because every time I have a staff meeting and we talk about anything that comes up with migrant, we always bring up those numbers. Hey, go out there and start recruiting because the recruitment and the amount of kids or the 17 to 21 that we get is quite a lot.
And if you'll think about the paradigm of what's happened in ag, where we used to get a lot of seasonal workers for vegetables, fruit, and cane, we don't get nowhere near as much seasonal workers because
we don't have citrus.
Citrus is gone, vegetables is more of a stable crop now where they get a little bit, but most of those are the H-2A workers. And so the paradigm has shifted from those migratory families that used to follow the crops to the H-2A piece.
So here's where we still have our migrant recruiters, which a lot of you guys know them. It's Margie and Nancy on this side, Nora and Angie on the LaBelle side, right? And then this is where I said the two college and career advocates are also funded through the migrant, because on top of the interview kids, sometimes they find migrant families and they're able to recruit them. We train them so that they can complete the paperwork that's needed for them. You can see the salaries. Obviously, the FICA retirement and the group insurance. We did have funds for after-school recruitment because, believe it or not, our ladies on a Saturday, if they see them at Walmart or Sunday, they are there. And they are there recruiting, okay? So, you have to pay them those extra hours. That's not part of their weekly salary. And then there we have the FICA retirement and group insurance for that, so we figured that out as well. We do have a 70% for ESOL parent advocates, parent support. And again, this is, it was Marlene, now it's ending. She comes to Clewiston and LaBelle, and she provides English classes to parents. So she gets paid from migrant, but she also gets paid from Title III, which is the next title that I'll talk about, okay? So she comes and she really supports our parents, and she teaches them literacy in English, but she also is an advocate for making sure that they go to parent-teacher conferences. She's another one that'll go with them and translate, because she wants them to be involved even though they may not know the language, right? So we pay for that as well. Parent supplies, we have to have parent events. That is another focus area of the migrant education. I have to have a migrant parent advisory committee. So we actually have elections, and I actually have a president and a vice president anyway, but we have to have at least 2 to 4 meetings a year with them. Okay. So when we have those meetings, this is like one of the only grants that we can't provide them with dinner because some of them get off work so late. So a lot of times we order pizza, we have someone here taking care of the kids so that we can meet with them and talk to them about different things that Hendry County itself does, like the parent-family engagement. We talk to them about parent guides, the parent-teacher conferences, events that are going on at the school, and then we also ask their impact, support and just what else do you need for us to help to do so your child can be successful type thing, right? So we kind of survey them as well in different areas. And really, most of them are like, our schools are great, they really do take care of our kids. When we go, there's people there that even though we don't speak the language, they do translate for us. And if not, they know they come to our office and our girls here will, and in the law will go with them and translate. Again, this is a huge grant, so 50% of director and assistant director salaries go into that one. We do have one office manager, who is Maria, that takes care of all the migrants. Everything migrant. And then she also helps with the VPK as well. But her salary doesn't come from VPK. And we can use migrant because we do have to set aside certain spots for migrant students to be in VPK. Even if it's one little spot, two little spots, right? Just we do have to say that. And again, you can see salaries, right? Retirement, insurance. The 40% migrant literacy specialist, that is Mr. Talata. He does work he also is the VPK coordinator, but he also makes sure that there's spots for our migrant students. He also has the girls reach out to help those babies. And another set of kids that we kind of look for as well when we go to see our migrant families, do they have 3-year-olds? And then we provide services at home for that. But that goes through the migrant recruiters, and a lot of times Mr. Talata is one of the ones that helps find those as well, through VPK process. Right? So that is part of his salary, and all that good stuff with salaries. All right. Because we do have to reserve, again, it's another area of focus for the Title I Part C. We do reserve some little spots for those babies, right? Obviously, any child that we get, the earlier we get them, the better. So, 5% of the 12 VPK teachers, and I did fix it on this one, I didn't fix it on this one. And 5% of those 14 VPK paraprofessionals, again, their salaries, and FICA retirement and group insurance. We do have to put VPK substitute teacher funds, believe it or not, for that. So that's there. Supplies, we always try to have supplies for our VPK kids, but it's not just this grant, also the VPK grant gives them supplies as well. And then a lot of the money goes to after school tutoring and summer school tutoring. So, our ladies are out there, they're visiting families, they're reading with kids, showing parents how to read with kids throughout the summer. And then after school tutoring, we're always looking at, and we try to really help the high schools with this one, looking at those 11th and 12th graders that might need credits, or they have all their credits and their GPA, but they need to be able to pass that FAST ELA or an algebra. So we always just go to them and say, okay, hey, what do you need? Which one, right? And we provide them with we get a teacher that'll tutor them. We provide them with the ACT prep books that they need, and along with the ELLs, algebra, whatever they need as supplies, right, to help tutor these kids so that they can be part of the graduation. Okay. Private schools here also have equitable shares. Okay. Right now, in the private schools, there's only 2 of them that have migrant students, which is ICA and Harvest Academy, I believe. Yep. So it's not that many, but we have to, and that's also a formula, right? I just put in the number, this many kids is in there, this is their amount. So what we do with that is we keep that money aside for supplies as well. So if they call us and say, hey, my little migrant student, they need this, then we provide it for them. And then we have the indirect cost also of this grant, and that is at 6.35% of the $1,032,000.
Migrant's one of the ones,
Yes, migrant, question?
this is one of the ones that's frozen.
This is
and-
frozen,
And we're quite confident that coming from the federal Department of Education, if any of them are gonna get cut, I got a sneaky suspicion that anything to do with migrant or anything like that, that's what they're trying to really target. And so this is one that we're relatively sure and in fear that we're gonna wind up losing.
Congressman Franklin told me that expect at least a 30% cut. And he said not a reduction in spending, but a hard dollar cut. And then when I'm looking at, I don't know if anybody else is as sick as me, but I go and look at periodically the National Department of Education website and see kind of like what's going on there. And they have gone after and cut any kind of post-secondary for migrant or non-citizens. And so that just kind of, when you're looking at that pattern there, and plus like what you're hearing from Congress, like that's.
Well, and we did talk to our staff, right, the ones that are funded specifically for migrant staff. Obviously, we were thinking we were gonna get the money this year. We don't know yet,
I was
right?
crying here.
We don't know, but I feel like Mr. Swindle, if it says migrant, it's probably gonna be but they kind of knew, but we were thinking, okay, if we have the money that Congress already set aside for us, right, then we would have this year, but then they could start looking for jobs next year. Because they know that, if your job is funded by grants and the grant goes away, your job is gonna go away. I mean, we were very clear with them, and they're like, oh, but we may have one more, we were thinking, yeah, we have one more year. It's been appropriated, right, for it, but it didn't happen. Okay. Our next one is our Title III, which is our English language learners. And again, we do have a district ELL teacher, and that is Anna Paz, and she does a lot of our keeping up with our compliance. And when that compliance comes, it's those meetings, those ELL meetings that need to happen every year. The paperwork that goes into that, you guys, it's a bear, I can tell you that. We were, monitored this year, and they wanted samples of all that. Obviously, with his names off of them, but they wanted samples of all of that whole component of Title III. We do a lot of after-school tutoring and after-school transportation. Right? The only time we can't provide transportation is when the actual school itself is having an after-school tutoring, then that is done by the district. But if we're doing something very supplemental for our ELLs, then we have to have transportation for the kids. So as you can see, when you talk about salaries, we have teachers, paraprofessionals, and bus driver salaries that go into after-school tutoring and after-school transportation. Another big set aside is the parent-family engagement. Again, it's another area of focus that we have to write something for. So that is where we have, remember 70% was the migrant for our parent advocate recruiter. Then we have 30 again. And he's the one that comes and teaches parents things during the day. English, she helps them become citizens, believe it or not. A lot of them have appointments for that, so she quizzes them and she helps them to do that. Very rewarding in that sense. Supplies for ELLs, we did put quite a bit in supplies, because I don't know what it is, but it seems like those little bilingual dictionaries get lost every year. And they're expensive. They're a word-for-word dictionary. They have to be approved by the state of Florida.
They don't have like digital resources.
Right now, they can't use that, right? Even when they're testing, they gotta use the paperwork. I think it's moving toward the digital one, but
We can't use
it hasn't yet, that I know of. Have y'all heard? It hasn't moved, right? Not yet for a digital dictionary,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're working towards it, but it's not accessible during assessment time.
It's not accessible, so, we give them their copies so they can take around the classes and use it, but then there also has to be a set that is very specific for testing.
I didn't make it colder.
You put it on snow.
Parent events.
Chattering, I felt bad.
Again, parent events is another one. Again, it goes back to that throughout the year, we gotta have anywhere from 2 to 3 meetings with a group of ELO parents, talking about the ELO plan that we have that's been approved by the state. And anything else, right? If you need input for the student handbook, then you should have parent input for that. If you need input from that population for the student progression plan or the pupil progression plan, then, you know, we have a set of parents that we can call that can be part of that group. Okay? Private schools, again, equitable shares. They're always gonna get that. And again, that's another one that when the formula, I put the little number in and it tells me this is the amount you gotta give. So, and then this Title III also has indirect costs. It's not as much as only 2%, but we do pay indirect costs for that as well. Okay. Any questions on that one? Title III, in Title III, we've also gotten the immigrant grant. They have now awarded that this year. Curriculum. In the past, we have bought curriculum with it, and it's because we have so many newcomers coming in that our principals were like, we need something to use for kids that are coming in that need to learn the English language. So I have looked into curriculum for our principals, and we found the newcomers curriculum that helps get them acclimated to the school, right? But then at the same time, they're learning the phonics and grammar and a little bit of everything, speaking and giving them the time to, a little bit of everything. So we do that. Our parent universities, again, parents is a big push. So our parent universities that we host on each side of the district, we host one at LES and we host one in Clewiston. It used to be a CMS. This past year it was at Eastside. So we host that. A lot of times we have teachers or paraprofessionals that want to work that extra night, one day out of the week for 2 hours. So we have to put for salaries for that. But we don't have any money for that one, so I can't really, you know. It's usually been anywhere from like $19,000 to $24,000 more added to the Title V is not in jeopardy. That was not on the list. Yay, we're happy about that one. It wasn't. I know, I'm sorry. We have a lot of grants that we write. So. But as you can see, with Title V, we're able to support our high schools. Again, we have salaries for ELL teachers, 2 at the high schools, 1 in each school. And then one district ELL person, that one, which is Patty Sutton, she is in charge of also DAOF. So, so we gotta do things for them as well. But that's the salaries and the FICA retirement and the group insurance. The 2 high schools teachers, that came about because right, Mr. Sanchez, has been the last 3 years, there's been more of our ELL students have been our immigrant students, so they do not know any English. So in order to teach them English, they started giving them a developmental language arts class to help teach the English. So that's where those teachers come and they teach that. But some of them also teach the ESOL English 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that they can get those English credits as well as be in a class where they can learn English. Elevation, our Elevation is the online platform that we use for compliance. That's where we put all of our ELL plans, everything in there for every student. And it keeps track of our kids that also exited the program for 4 years, because there's an LF, there's a whole complication there, but anyway. But we use Elevation, and then Elevation is also purchased for DAOFs, so they can keep track of their ELLs. Start Spanish, this was another thing, what do we know? Like, especially secondary, you want to know what they know in their language. Are they reading their language? Can they do math in their language, right? So, when we found out that Star had Spanish, I go, we really do need to purchase this so that when they come, they can test them and we can see, are they on grade level in their language? Because if they are, then learning English is going to just be so much quicker, I want to say, you know what I mean? Because they have literacy skills behind them. So we purchased that, and we do have our high school developmental language arts classes. They do give them that assessment to find out where they're at in their native language. Again, and the trend now is that we have more of those kids are on grade level or above grade level. in the reading and math. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. After school programs for all the schools, Barb puts money for that, salaries and and the FICA retirement stuff. Leader in Me is another program that has been purchased from Title V funds. After school supplies for ELL students as well. This is another one that we have to supplement those ELL teachers, at the high school in case they need supplies for their classrooms, yes.
What determined, I see him up there not in jeopardy, what determined that?
No, I don't know. It was the federal government. I don't know.
They just said that's not gonna turn.
Yeah, that wasn't on the list.
They went after a lot of the Title Is. There's like Title I with A, B, C, D, like subsections, and they went after the Title Is and the subsections underneath that.
So they're not gonna touch.
But I think it's because it's titled rural and low income. And it's not titled with any other word, but it's titled
migrant.
rural, rural, low income. I think that's why they didn't go after it.
Migrant, I think they're targeting migrant type stuff.
Yeah.
Just like they are nationwide with everything else. And so pretty much anything to do with migrant, I think is what they're really looking at really close.
I mean, I guess it helps to know this, this bill still be available.
Yep.
And then, remember I told you Title I requires for us to have a homeless set aside, but we also do get a homeless grant. I think this was more competitive, if I'm not mistaken. So we have a direct cost for that. Again, we do have a homeless coordinator. Supplies after school for homeless kids, teacher salaries.
Can you give us when I think of homeless, and I hear the word, I think of somebody with no place to live or under a bridge or in a tent. Can you
It's
bring
actually,
to kind of define what is?
that's a good question. It's a very broad definition.
It is.
Yeah, it is not, same thing. Most people think they're living on the streets or in their car, and that's really far, far from the truth.
It could be people doubled up. 2 families living in one house.
It could be a child that moved here and lives with their cousin.
Yeah.
For various reasons. They're considered, they are classified under the homeless category. So basically a home is a parent and children living in a home that they own or rent. That's it. Everything else is almost homeless. So it's a really, really broad definition.
Or kids that they're living in hotels. Right, they're not they don't necessarily have a home, but they might be living in a hotel. We've had, and after the hurricanes, we've had more, and even more that moved from those other districts, right, that got hit really bad. So some of those kids are living with another family in order to survive. So, but we have, we train the guidance counselors every year on this with homeless. We have actually somebody from HEC that does a really good job of explaining it. And when there's situations, believe it or not, when there's situations that we're not sure about, we call her, and sometimes she'll know, oh yeah, this happened, and this, yes, it's considered homeless. And sometimes she's like, I have to get to the state with the state for that one. Okay, but that's homeless. But it's not necessarily like you find somebody homeless out on the street.
Yeah.
Can kids be living like that? Yes. Yes. Another one is they're living in a camper in somebody else's house, right? And they're living there just to sleep because feeding and bathing and something else, they may have to pay that person some money to do that at their house. Okay. We had a little family in LaBelle. Oh yes. They were living in a garage with one door, super hot. A mom with a couple kids.
That's your last one, right?
Yeah, homeless driver connection, we did write that one, that was a competitive one as well. And this one ends in September, but this one was very specific for parent engagement. So, and you can see the breakdown of the cost there. But there was a certain amount for 3 years in a row, and then a very small amount at the end, which ends, I want to say in September of 2026. Right? And VPK revenues, those are the ones that come from the state. Okay. So attendance into VPK is very important. I know my teachers out there in Montero are running after the parents. Sign this, monthly VPK attendance sheet so that we can get that money. Okay? And again, 30% of the VPK revenues pays for the teachers, But we're also paying for the principal at 50%, 2 custodians at 50%, a bookkeeper for the school, 50%, and Mr. Talata, the VPK coordinator, which he does a lot. He does a lot.
And-
And he even takes care of the summer VPK.
And VPK, the rest of the other pieces come from general fund. And so that's one of the things that we've looked at very closely. We've talked about fee structures, and we've held off for this year, but we may continue the conversation just depending on, you know, how the rest of the landscape changes with funding, you know,
It's already
through the
happened in
district.
other districts.
Yeah, we're probably the only ones who don't, I suspect.
Yeah, I mean, in
Yeah.
my little group chat of school board members
Yeah.
around the state, we are the
Yeah.
only one in
Right.
that.
We looked at
I'm the
it,
only one in that group chat that it's fully
yeah,
funded.
we looked at it really
Yeah.
close and we kicked it around in multiple directions. We decided that we're just gonna wait one more year and watch it. We're okay, you know, but we suspect that it will happen at some point in time. Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Rogers.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
Well, I thank you for I learned a lot. So I look at all this. 5% of 17 teachers get paid out of this
Yeah.
category. So many categories. And so who figures all that out? 70% here, 30% here, 15%
Yeah.
here. And it's a huge, who's that?
I think that's part of the indirect cost, right?
Mr. Adams.
No.
That's the man in the blue shirt.
And does
That,
That's really
our
not.
bookkeepers put that into the system.
So, but I think the true answer to the question is, Dr. Mundy, at one point, was writing all of these grants by herself. Ms. Rose coming on board, helped take some of those over. Ms. Duncan and Mr. Sanchez took one each over. And so when you write these grants, it's up to you as the grant director coordinator to go through and do that yourself. And so they have to decide
Yeah, we have to-
Well, that's
upfront.
gonna be huge. Just
Oh.
17
Oh, yeah, the salary
teachers and
sheets are like-
5%.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that.
And Dr. Money did it by herself for
Yeah.
years and years. And that's why, you know, she had to have help with that. It's a lot.
Well, hats off to all you.
And our bookkeepers do a good job of doing the salary sheets for us, right? And they even, every year they include, like if there's gonna be, we always include a little extra, but if there's gonna be a raise, we include that money in there. If there's
Yeah.
gonna be an incentive of
Well,
some kind, we include that money.
And to the second part about that, they decide where it goes. Then the bookkeepers make sure all of those long salary
All those
lines
lines.
wind up where they're supposed to be, and one number off, and now we're at audit findings and stuff. But if you'll notice, over the last couple of years, we've been clean.
Yeah.
And so the work they're doing is incredible work to keep all of that organized and clean. The finance folks and the payroll folks, they just do an amazing job. Can't say enough about that. And you picked out exactly why, because it's a lot.
And we were desktop monitoring and we did really well.
Next on the list is going to be Ms. White with the portion of the exceptional student education and the funds that she manages through the IDEA.
Yes, I will. All right. So these are my primary funding sources. Because I am ESC and Student Services, we have two different funding sources to look at. Or two different categories for that we'll look at. The first one is IDEA, so this is for our ESC students, and this is federal funding, Part B entitlement grant. We do receive a Part B for pre-kindergarten, and we get a Part B for our K through 12. And so you can see the two different amounts there. It's not a lot for our pre-K kiddos. This really uses a formula. It considers factors like population and poverty measures. And so when we're talking about our K through 12, it starts with an allocation, a base allocation, based on numbers from 1999. So the students that we had in our district with disabilities in 1999, that's the base allocation funding that we received, which is somewhere around $636,000. And then in addition in that formula, then it talks about our total population, and then we get a formula that is talking about our poverty rates, free and reduced lunch, and so forth. And so Digital Academy of Florida is actually included in those numbers on the side of our total population, poverty, and all of that, which brings us more money. But they're not included in our base allocation, and so that has been some discussion that we have had with the State Department of Education, because they have about the same number of students with disabilities currently that we have, but because they weren't a part of our school district in 1999, they're not in our base allocation numbers.
When you're talking about the same amount of numbers, are you talking about hard numbers, or are you talking about percentage?
Hard numbers, total number of students with disabilities.
What do those numbers look like?
Last year, I don't have the exact totals, but we were right at like 1,019, 1,027, something like that. And they were like right under 1,000, but in the past, we've almost been mirrored. So, you know, they have, their rates had dropped a little bit in enrollment. But our total numbers are almost, like our total, we're about mirroring a bit like 7,000 students, 7,000 something students. These funds are used to supplement the excess costs of providing special education and related services to students with disabilities. And so primarily what these grants do for pre-K, it primarily, we put in there our professional and technical services, so contracted services for speech and language therapy, for OTs, occupational therapy, for physical therapists. That's primarily what that money would go towards. Sometimes it's for curriculum and materials or supplies. Those are the types of things that we do in the pre-K grant. Under the Part B for K through 12, that also is primarily that is primarily salaried people. So all of our para-educators would fall under that, not all of them, but our ESC paras, we take 30 of them that we put into that IDEA grant, the other are served under or taken out of the general ESC. And so we also have salaries for our CODAs, our occupational therapy assistants, our physical therapists, our behavior specialists. And it is not 100%, there's a portion of that, so 60, 40, 40% then coming out of general. And that's different for each salary. I have to go through each one of them to tell you. But pretty much this grant is going to cover salaries, FICA, the insurance, the SSF, Social Security, all those things are included in that grant. So as salaries increase, I have to move things out of this grant because it will no longer meet the needs that I have for that. Materials and furniture, technology, software, adaptive devices, those things can be covered. And we do have supply lines and material lines in this grant for assistive technology and different things like that that we need to purchase for students. And then any other IDEA-related professional development, which we have been able to do a lot of our professional development things under a different grant, but that's frozen right now. So this time we'll talk about that. Francisco.
You're still there?
There we go. Hey, there we go. I can't zoom out right now, but that's that. Okay, so there were some roll forward. What we were given this year was $58,467 for our pre-K, but with our roll forward, meaning the remaining balance from last year, that left us with $78,959.80 for the current school year. And in our IDEA K-12 preliminary allocation, same, we have the same amount we were given last year, we were allocated for this year. And we had a roll forward of $187.53. And that was primarily in positions that we didn't get filled, and so their insurance and different things. And so we ended up having a roll forward there that we're able to use for next year. It gives us that total. Okay, state funded. So that was the federal side of the money we received for ESC students. This is the state side of the funds that we receive, and that's in our ESC guarantee. With this allocation, it comes from the Florida Education Finance Program, the FEFP, and this is like those FTE counts for our students. Our students who are count in this area for funding, for us to receive funding, have to be here for 2 survey periods, survey 2 and survey 3. Confirmed. Yes. And in that count, they use a matrix funding model in our state. Other states, there's some states that do that, some states that use a resource-based model. Our state uses a matrix level funding, and I'm going to explain that on the next slide. In this money that we are receiving, we are not receiving funds here for students who are at a higher level, level 4 and level 5. I'm going to explain how we get that money in just a minute. But this amount that you see in the bottom right, the $4,920,000, that is what we are getting for students who are at the basic level of funding. Okay, total number of students there. So ESC matrix funding, what this means is that In the blue categories, a level 111, 112, and 113, those students are receiving a basic amount of funding, and that's the numbers you see there that equate with that. Students who have a higher need level, we fill a matrix for every kid with an IEP. And there are different categories and domains. There are behavior, independent functioning, healthcare, and communication, and curriculum. And we look at how they score in that area, what their needs levels are. A 1 being they don't need a ton of support, a 5 being they need a lot more support. They get a score and a total. That total places them on this matrix, okay? So based on that matrix score that aligns to the student's IEP and the goals and their needs, the state then will provide us money back for that student. And that's what in yellow you'll see the level 4s and the level 5s. They're called 254s. Their total on their matrix will be a 254 or a 255, okay? And that money that we receive does not pay for that kid in total, but it certainly helps, right? I'll just give one example. We have one student that we've spent at least $86,000 just in people to serve him, and we received $32,000 for him. So that's just one example. But that level 4s and 5 are considered a weighted FTE, and they are not included in this number that I just gave you, okay? The weighted FTE number, that money gets put back into general, so it's received generally, and then that gets put into my ESC general. So it's in addition to that number, and I don't have that total number, because it gets dispersed differently, it doesn't come together. Okay, so those are the two, that's the primary funding that we receive, state and federal, for our students that have disabilities. This particular grant is not something we typically have, but we were granted this end of this school year, and it will be extended through the end of December. It was a community of practice for small and rural districts, and it was a project that came out of some concerns that we had with discrepancy and the cost it takes to serve our students with severe behavior needs and the actual funding we're receiving. And so we did a cost analysis, a data review, presented it to the state. You've heard Mr. Swindle talk about it. They came down, they came into our classrooms. We shared that data, and from that data, we were granted this grant and this amount of funding to serve kids with behavioral challenges and help support the needs for those kiddos. So,
Okay, so we're gonna put you on the hot seat on this one.
yes.
The $150,000 when they came to rectify the situation, does it even touch it?
No, but it's a cute idea. So we're appreciative. We're appreciative though that we're not even close.
So-
Not even close.
But I want to make sure you fully understand the gravity of that. So Ms. White uncovered and Mr. Adams uncovered the fact that, a good example is you got a student that we received $20,000 to $30,000 for that cost us as a board $86,000 in just humans alone that we had to provide services for.
Not
And
materials,
not-
not equipment, not.
Just humans, right?
Just people
And so
serving.
and they were like, what, really? And so they were like, no, that can't be. So they said, we're gonna come check. Well, they come check and their eyes were just bug-eyed about not only that, but a comprehensive list of students that Ms. White and her team put together and showed them specific hard costs and the specific income or the payback for that. And they were just kind of blown away and they're like, well, they left here and went back and started doing some massive changes within the Department of Education, addressing that matrix with the state and the State Board of Education, and they have made some changes to it. But I want to point out that Ms. White, really was the primary one, and Ms. Cochran, that uncovered it, brought it, did the background work, the lead work, hosted the Department of Education here, and showed it to them. And so that was right here in our district with this great staff that you have that made that happen. $150,000, does it help it? It's a Band-Aid on a broken leg, but it's $150,000 that we didn't have, that we now have. And the big part about it is we're moving there, they see it more clearly. And based on the work that she did, they're moving in that direction now as a state to better fund that matrix and to rethink that matrix for all districts.
Okay, so my suggestion, my unsolicited suggestion would be, let's put that on our legislative platform.
Okay, can we talk about that
Too
offline?
spicy?
Well,
Well, we had
yes,
some
yeah.
conversations with lobbyists, and I am working through the case with other, it's a lot of awareness things that are happening. And CASE is the administrative special education group that we're a part of, and so we are getting some words, some things are happening federally, talking more about things federally and state. So.
And obviously you guys, need to help drive the legislative platform, but I've got some thoughts that we need to vet and talk about before that's a great one, and we are working on it, and there is some movement there, and I'm happy to do what I need to do, but we've got to be very specific and strategic this year, and I'll explain to you why at another point in time.
I'm picking up what you're laying down there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one of the outcomes of this that he's referring to. So with this matrix level funding that I was talking about, the state had me on a call with them, and they said, if we're going to change this, how would you change it for behavior? What should we look at? What should we do? And how do we make this work so you get more money for those kids who are more intense, more severe? They asked my opinion, they heard my opinion. They're going to change the matrix based on those recommendations. So I've yet to see it, but that's a major deal. And it won't affect just our county, it will affect the entire state of Florida and all those students that need behavioral support. So,
And Ms. White coined it, well, she didn't create the term, but she coined it here, in my opinion, with the term feral child. And a lot of the children we're getting, because of whatever reason, at the K and 1 era, they are completely feral. And you don't know what it takes for staff to be able to run a school. They're not classified at anywhere else on that matrix, but it takes a lot of humans because of their behavior to be able just to keep them under control enough to be able to teach a class. We get nothing extra for that, but yet we have to have multiple people to be able to control that. And so that's specifically where that's going to help.
So this grant money is used to set up 3 new classrooms because we're continuing to get more students with disabilities who have behavioral concerns. And we are setting up 3 new classrooms on the Clewiston side. The numbers are not that way on the other side yet, but are very close. We are packing out our varying exceptionality classrooms, K to 2.
So you're saying Clewiston has a higher population of heavy hitters?
No. There are more students with disabilities who need more of a self-contained environment. Currently, just number-wise, just in general, they have higher numbers of students with disabilities right now.
And this is an ebb and flow. It's not,
right.
They just happen to be that way now and 2 years ago, and so it goes back and forth.
And I think a lot of the movement coming in to this area.
Dade County?
Yep.
That would be the answer, yes.
Call it like it is.
That is what
Get
it
up
is.
there and preach.
We've seen a lot of growth, so we've had to add more units for behavior. So there's curriculum material supplies that we need to buy for those classrooms. Also, the behavior analysts that serve those classrooms, we're able to fund them through this, which I was able to move some money out of my IDEA to support some other things, so that helped a lot with that. And then our speech and language services that serve those kids with functional communication, replacement behavior needs. And then the other piece is that we're to collaborate with other small rural districts, and I was able to do some of that at CASE. I've been able to do some of that with Fiddlers to share out what we're doing and how we can help support students with behavior needs. That's also my passion in life. I'm board certified behavior analyst, and I love to do that. So, okay, moving on to student services. So now we're switching gears. We also receive a mental health allocation assistant plan. It's not a grant, it's a allocation. And under this allocation, we are to provide direct behavioral health services to students, train educators and school staff on mental health, connect children, youth, and families to appropriate behavioral health and services. And so, the way we are utilizing that money, we're receiving $954,000, I wish. Woo! Yes, that just got exciting for a second. It's not. $954,101. We are using that money to pay for our 2 school psychologists, our 4 mental health therapists. We did have 5 last year. We did remove one of those positions, and then a behavior analyst, because we had to counteract that a little bit. What's happening with our mental health, and what this Mr. Swindle was alluding to, is that this is manifesting itself in behavioral challenges. right? And so some of our very young children, it's requiring more behavioral analysts to work with those students in the classroom setting and in the environment, in addition to those mental health therapists. And so we did put some funding there for behavior analysts as well.
Also provide mental health services to quote-unquote feral children.
You don't. You start with the behavior analyst and you don't. You start with the behavior analyst.
Okay.
Yeah. And some it's appropriate for and some it is not. And it just depends. But sometimes they have to work together if the student is cognitive enough for that and age appropriate. Okay. Curriculum mandated hours. So we have to provide 5 hours mandated training in mental health and resiliency for grades 6 through 12, and there's other specific topics that have to be targeted, child trafficking, substance abuse, that has to happen for elementary to 12th grade. We use the funds for supporting that program as well. We use Compass Suite 360. There's online modules. The students go through those. Teachers work with them, and we meet that mandate that way. And then we use some of the funds to support our community and family engagement event, which if you didn't come, you should come because it's fabulous, and it'll be on the Clewiston side this year in April. This is our youth mental health awareness training. This is a little tiny grant. We get about $13,000, but guess what? Currently it's frozen. So we may or may not get that, I don't know. Last year we received $13,000. This meets the statute where we're supposed to train at least 80% of our staff in youth mental health first aid awareness, and that's the funding that we use to do that. So to make sure that there are licenses they have to buy to get the certification and go through the program. Our mental health providers are the trainers for that program, but we do have to buy those seats. All right, this is my last one. And this is also not a permanent, this is a one-time thing this year anyway. We don't know if it'll continue or not. We hope that it will, and that we will see great benefits from this. But we were asked to participate in a grant through Future Makers Coalition and Collaboratory Health and Wellness Coalition, and we had to discuss the needs of Hendry County Schools mental health and what other things that we needed. And the areas that we really are trying to target is our Tier 1, which is our school counselors being able to do more preventive work with students in mental health. But they're also pulled in every direction, and they're also doing a lot of administrative tasks. And so being able to target small group, being able to target classroom instruction in this area is very difficult. So we were looking for technology solutions. Like I said, with the other grant, we use Suite 360, which is online, and we have kids that have done very well with that. And so we don't have people a lot of times. So how are we going to provide these services to kids? So we did receive the grant. It's $140,000 over a 3-year period. So it's not a ton of money. It's also not just our money. It's split between ourselves and Headstream, which is powered by Second Muse Company. And their job is to help bring different technology solutions to us for us to vet. So we have a group of people, Dr. Staley, myself, my assistant director, IT, Jason with finance. We're coming together with a group of counselors, school counselors. They're going to bring these different products and tools to us. We're going to vet those products and see if they would be helpful to our school counselors to help serve those students that they see on a day-to-day basis, to help be preventive and hopefully that they don't need Tier 2 or Tier 3 interventions. We are just starting this project. We may find solutions, we may not, we don't know. That is what this project is about. Looking for solutions. Then they will train, whatever we choose, we will go through training for our staff, and that money will help support those things. Thank you.
I have a question on that one.
Okay.
So, pre-vetted, and I already told you that I was triggered by that.
Yes.
I don't like anybody making decisions for our kids but us.
Right.
And definitely I have concerns about future makers, and we have very different political views. And so in the pre-vetting situation, we don't like anything that they bring to us. Are we obligated to use anything they bring to
No.
us? What if we take a resource to them? Do they have to approve?
No, we're in control of approving any and all things that we use in our district. What pre-vetted means is we provided them a list of things that are our requirements. These are things we want to see, these are things we wish to exclude. That we've had multiple meetings, many, to go over what our needs are, what we want, how we want to focus things, and we lay that out and
So we could bring a vendor that we feel like is a good fit for our district and
Yes.
ask them to pay for it.
yes, because ultimately, we're making the decision of what we want to implement. Yes.
And we've had the conversation about resiliency, and we've had the conversation about check the laws, and, you know, all of those things, so.
And-
we've had those conversations. They
You
were
know,
very
I'm just saying,
non-religious,
I don't want to get set on
gender
fire
neutral.
by the legislature or the governor for not
No.
doing my
Nor do
job.
we.
There's a big group of Hendry County people that will not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Just need it on record.
And also, you know, I have other companies that we work with in this way with curriculum for social emotional learning, and
I'm supposed to be doing social emotional
I
learning,
know.
I'm supposed to be
Well, we are.
resilient.
We still don't do resilience yet. It doesn't really change. It's still social emotional. But
Said that out loud.
I will. They'll have to fire me. It is your social emotional intelligence. They can't take that away. The curriculum content, they can call it what they wish. But the purpose is to find solutions, and we're going to look for what those are that align to our district and our initiatives and the state statutes. Okay?
Your 254, 255s,
Uh-huh.
how often, the state used to come in and very diligently examine it, and then we'd have audit exceptions and we wouldn't get the money.
Yeah.
Is that still happening?
I don't know what that, I don't know what you mean by your question.
Okay, the state comes
We
in and says, you
definitely
didn't
have-
qualify, you someone told us it was at 255.
Right.
We're not sending that money because we don't see that.
No, yeah, no, not to that, I mean, we've not had anyone say that that's not a student who's a 255. We've done a
That
lot.
used to happen.
No, we've done a lot of work in training on how to write an appropriate matrix based on an IEP.
So your self-assessments too.
Yeah, and our desktop monitoring, our self-assessments, we have been excellent, so,
Yeah.
all
Right.
over. Yeah.
They need to get everything we can get.
Yes, that's right.
And more.
That's right.
And more.
It doesn't know where
I'm
they're
trying.
going, I can tell you.
Any other questions?
Where does the money come from when you don't have enough to meet the child's need? Where you get it from?
That's a very good question.
That's called your general fund.
Oh, wow.
And we're very, very careful. We watch it closely. We panic at times, but, you know, we make it happen.
And they never reimburse.
Well, so they will only pay us for, you know, what the matrix calls for, what funding comes from the FEFP. When we have to dig into the general fund to cover it, the answer is no. We only get X amount of dollars in the general fund. They will not reimburse. That's correct.
F11 will maximize your.
That's why we worked really hard with the state this year to point out, look, your matrix and your expenditure showing, and from 1999, nowhere near as covered what it costs us today. And they hear us and see us, so hopefully we'll get some help. That's right. Well, we'll see if anything happens, right? This coming year will be the first year where the funding should hopefully make a difference.
So correct me if I'm wrong on ESC spending. So whatever you get from the state and the feds, you have to match it with the same amount. It's like matching grants. So all the money that you saw outlined here, we have to meet that money with general funds.
Yes. That's the
And
maintenance
if
of
we
it.
have to dig into the general fund, say, they're giving us 3 million, we got 3 million on the table, then we have to like dig deep and put more general funds in it. Then you can't say, oh, next year we're not, you have to
That's right.
spend at least whatever you put in from the general funds. So we get 3 from them, we put in our 3, have to put in another 1 million. We don't get to walk that back
That's
next
right.
year. You have to at least spend that 4 million. And for every dollar you spend, like you never get to walk that money back.
You can, but it's a very hard process.
You don't want to have to try to, the process to walk the money back.
Yeah, it's bad. That's the maintenance of effort is the term.
We gotta be a little judicious to get that.
Well, I like to use the word strategic.
Okay.
Judiciously.
You've got to be very strategic in how you do things and how you operate. Yes. Thank you, Ms. White. Ms. Goff, with the adult education.
All right, so before I get into our grants, I just kind of wanted to go over what our state budget looks like. So we have our own funding model of post-secondary, CTE, and adult education. The funding model is a little wonky, but basically it's the amount of students we have and how many hours they're in our class. So butts in seats is basically how we get funded. This year we came in at a little over $1 million. It's about $200,000 more than we received from the state last year for state funding, which is a better seat than I think some of our surrounding districts are in terms of post-secondary. So I'm glad to see those numbers come in. We primarily fund every single one of our adult CTE teachers out of that. We fund my salary out of that, and then any of our administrative staff that helps kind of run the operations out of our state funds. It's also how we're able to help run the buildings, the new buildings that we're adding on, and pay for some of those new buildings. So the new building lease and all of that's paid for out of those state funds. We do charge for our post-secondary classes, CTE specifically, and so those tuition funds are basically what runs our program. So what we collect is what we have to spend on those programs, and it's very delineated per program. So for welding, for example, we collect this amount for supplies. That's exactly how much we have to spend on that welding program for supplies. We are able to cover a little bit of administrative staff for that because they are who helps do all the registration and who helps make those programs run. Adult education, and I'll speak to that in a minute. We don't really collect a lot for it. It's $45 for a student to come into our adult education class. That's GED or ESOL. And so it helps a little bit with supplies, but typically we rely on grants to fund those salaries and those supplies. Our entitlement grants are what I'm going to get into first. So this is for secondary CTE Perkins. It's been around for a really long time. I will say the amount of money we get for Perkins is progressively getting less, and I think a lot of that is due to our CAPE funding that we get. So when our students earn an industry certification, there's a dollar amount tied to that certification, and that is primarily how almost all of our CTE programs are run. Perkins does have some regulations in terms of what programs we're allowed to fund. It's not unlimited. There are certain rules that we have to follow. We do pay for a para at LHS for their ag department out of Perkins. We also pay some, and this is new to this year, I'm going to add in some extra hours to help teachers do industry certification training for our students after school hours, as well as help supplement some of their advisory roles in their CTSOs. So think of some of those clubs that are tied directly to our classes. So we're going to add some funding for that. Trainings, we have FACTI, which is our state conference next week, and so that pays for some of our teachers to go to that. As well as some of those programs that don't generate a lot of funds, this is how I'm able to help them get started. And so we're adding some new programs like culinary, we're expanding our criminal justice at LHS, and these are the funds that I'll use to help kind of kickstart those programs until they can be self-sufficient through certifications. Kind of a sidebar to Perkins 5 is our rule, and so we qualify for that. Obviously here in Hendry County, it's not nearly as much money, it's a little over $68,000. That's another entitlement grant, so we do receive that as well. Qualifications. We pay for half of the CHS Ag Para. We also pay for half of our workforce specialists out of that, and the majority of that's each month's salary. So we have a little bit left over for supplies for some of those programs. I am not immune to the federal grant reserve where they're reviewing grants. So this grant is one of those that are also on hold. So our adult education grant, should have been $270,000. It's also on hold right now. I heard yesterday that it sounds like they're going to cut it a little bit less than half and allow us to kind of keep floating for the year, which won't even cover our salaries. So I said before that our adult education doesn't really bring in any money, so this is how I pay for all of those teachers that do GED, ESOL, both day and nighttime is out of this grant. And so we're going to also get creative. So although I allocated in other places, any penny we get will go towards salaries for those positions. And then it's a partner, just like in Perkins, is our integrated education, our civics grant. It's tied to adult education, so it's in the same boat. We won't see that again, or we won't see that until they kind of give us an update for that as well. And then the last two, you guys already know about this, so I won't harp on them, but we do have, these are competitive grants, the workforce cap grant that we had to start the Laval Adult School with those 3 programs, plumbing, HVAC, and welding, and so we're still running through that grant until the end of 26. And then, the fun one with all of our fun tools for ag tech is $1,700,000. $5,000. And I will apply for the CAP grant again, because every time the legislator writes it in there, I'm gonna continue to apply for it until they run out of money. Any questions?
Maybe you could go over a little bit on the culinary program and the new, I saw the posting for the new electric teacher.
Yes,
Has that person been hired?
they have.
And
Yep.
were you bringing in equipment to set that up in that new building that I haven't been in yet?
Yep, absolutely. So they actually just this week have been in that building cleaning up and getting ready to start outfitting that building for electrical. I have hired that instructor. I actually stole him from Fort Myers Tech, and so he has experience in the post-secondary tech world. He's been teaching electrical for a little while now. So I think it'll be a really good addition to what we're doing over
So
there.
students will start in August.
They'll start in August.
And
We've
the
already
cul-
got enrollment rolling.
And the culinary.
And culinary at LaBelle High School is really popular, and so they have those classes packed to the max. Ms. Bass did a great job at hiring a great teacher, and so we've been working really close together on the supplies and needs list. We were just in that classroom the other day with Mr. Houston, making sure we have all the electrical needs that we need, and so it'll be up and running in August, and we're excited. I think those students are too.
Great.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Since you don't have anything else going on, I was contacted by a gentleman about an underwater robotics grant.
Okay.
So I forwarded the information, his contact information to Mr. Swindle. So, like I said, I know you don't have anything else going on, so something else to look at.
All right, I'll check it out.
I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be.
Underwater robotics.
Add it to the list, right?
So, yeah, I'm cool with that.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. Any further questions? Ms. Goff took 6 minutes. She's the winner so far. Yes, and as you can see, our CTE and adult education program just continues to flourish and do great. Ms. Goff is doing a phenomenal job, and we're super proud of the things going on there. So very, very proud of that. Ms. Duncan is going to present the portion of the grant and what she manages for the district, as well as it's not just elementary ed director stuff, but some other things as well.
Not working, is it?
Click on it, and then just press that email. It should.
He says F11. F11.
It's up top.
At the top, yeah, okay. It's getting, there's something else. I think we have to click on it first. I will talk about Title II grant funding. If it doesn't work, it's okay, we'll just do it this way, that's okay. So Title II is the grant that primarily focuses on professional learning for the district. As you can see, it has 4 specific purposes: to increase student academic achievement consistent with challenging academic standards, improve the quality and effectiveness of teachers, principals, and other school leaders, increase the number of teachers, principals, and other school leaders who are effective in improving student education and academics, and to provide students greater access to effective teachers, principals, and school leaders. All that to say, there's 4 specific domains that our funding is allocated in. So these are the 4 domains. As you can see, there's professional learning, recruitment and retention, prioritizing effective student instruction, and then administrative costs. So I will break down for you what we currently have active in that grant. This is one of the grants that is on hold with the state, with the federal government, excuse me. So we are stressing just a little bit because it does cover some things that are very important. So like the other grant holders have talked about, equitable shares. Equitable shares is something that is required to provide to private schools. Title II is based on a per student, per pupil allocation. It's about $22 per student enrollment that the private schools get out of this grant. So whatever their enrollment is, they get that much money multiplied by their enrollment. So it's broken down by the 3 schools that qualify for that, and you can see their individual amounts. What we look at is the previous costs of these grants in years prior. Did we stay within our budget? Did we have different things? Then we do pre and post surveys to kind of get input from people as to what they're needing for the year in the next grant writing cycle, and then we collect feedback throughout the year on the conferences and the things that people have attended to see is what we're investing in worthy of their costs. So administrative travel, that covers anything that administrators need to do. So like Ms. White was saying, we've been collaborating on some professional learning costs. We've been working together so that this grant will cover some of her professional learning costs so that it alleviates some of the funding issues in her grants. We try to cover all administrators for any travel that they need. That includes their registrations, daily per diem meals, hotel rooms, and then mileage reimbursements. And then we have a separate allocation that we allot for teachers, and that's all teachers within the district who may want to attend any professional learning. And we write those in, we request feedback from the schools as to what
professional learning they would like to attend. So for example, Avid, Leader in Me, we did some Marzano training this summer. Are they going to go to any of the state literacy conferences, things like that? We write into the grant, so they are supported and funded throughout that. New teacher days, onboarding is part of this. So when we come back to school, our new teachers are full on with their staff, right? And so they don't have the opportunity to really have that time ahead. And we are required by the state to provide a new teacher induction program. So we provide 2 days outside of the teacher contract in which all new teachers come. The first day is July 24th. You're welcome to join us. It will be at Westside Elementary in the cafeteria starting at 8 a.m. It'll be a full day where we onboard those teachers. We give them the basic process of who our district leaders are, what the missions of the district are, and really walk them through what the new teacher program looks like for the whole school year. They are paid a $130 stipend for that day, and then they get a second day of an additional $130 on their school site campus for onboarding there, where they learn how to put in sick leave, work on sub-plans, really just creating the basic new teacher procedures at their school site. And then we provide supplies for professional learning. That could include any book studies that the schools want to do, all the materials that the reading coaches might want to provide professional learners or PLC materials for. And that's also kind of just a holding pot for any additional funds that we might have available for the next year. Any questions on that component? The second domain that we have is recruitment and retention. And currently the way we support that is with our new teacher induction program. And again, that is a required state initiative program. And if we don't get grant funding for that, it will be something that the district is required to figure out how to pick up because it is a mandated program. Currently, it's estimated at $24,000. That includes up to 6 people on that new teacher induction team. We provide 5 evening meetings, 2.5 hours each, where they meet with all of the new teachers and walk through the requirements that the state says you have to meet in order to meet that eligibility for your teacher certification to move to the next level. So it is very scripted, it is very aligned with the state protocol. Some districts call it Golden Apple, there's different things that are called with it. But it is a wonderful program, and if you ever want to participate and stop by in one of our evening sessions, we would love for you to do that. We also have standards-based planning. That's been a big push and initiative for our district, is paying teachers to provide planning after school. So our teachers have been staying after school 2 hours a month, sometimes up to 4, depending on the needs of the school. And they sit with an administrator and or a literacy coach, and they really walk through standards-based planning, and they make sure that their lessons are aligned to the standards, that they're rigorous, and that has really been what's pushed our academic data forward this year, is the intentional, purposeful planning around that. And so they are paid their hourly pay to participate in that. The bookkeepers, the administrators, they all have to provide and upload documentation of their lesson plans, so that we have proof of what is being conducted is valid and meeting the requirements for the grant.
I can underscore enough what Ms. Duncan said there. One of the big things that helped us grow academically was specifically the standards-based planning after hour that we were able to fund and do through this grant. And this grant is on hold. And so we know, that again, that there's going to be some major impacts to our district, and the things that we are doing and growing, depending on the outcomes of these grants.
Something has certainly made a lot of difference in the last year here.
Yep. And this is one of them. That specific thing alone. Now, there's been a lot, but that one specific thing was responsible for an enormous amount of growth.
Our teachers have been very appreciative because, our teachers are good at planning, but they plan even better when it's an intentional planning, and just give them the opportunity to pay for that. I think that has been hugely motivating for them to feel like, the district is rewarding them for their time and effort. So I really do hope that we can continue that and that the grant comes through soon, so
and please understand what she means. It's not, teacher planning was not, well, we just paid them 2 hours to come and just catch up, whatever. It was very intentional, very structured, very cohorted, where there was a leader from the school there, and when you come in, you have this ready, and very rubricated. And so the planning ending result was far better. And the teachers are more prepared and more deliberate in the classroom as a result, and the results show up. And you're going to see that in their presentation.
We actually trained a little more on that today, even in our district leadership meeting, on what is the next step? How do you make sure that the things that you're asking students to do really align with the standard itself. And so we are getting very intentional with that, and that really is a huge push of how our academic growth is going to continue to emerge. Did you have
How
a
long
question?
have we had this grant?
This grant has been going on before my time, so.
Okay, and so when did we change the structure of how we were using the grants?
So last year was the first year that we really started putting it all in Title II for standards-based planning. Prior to that, Dr. Money had tried utilizing Title V, but there was some funding reductions there, and a lot of schools weren't really choosing to use the funding for that. It was last year that we really made it almost, not a requirement, because we can't require people to stay after school, but a very
Strongly
significant
encouraged.
expectation. And so last year, when Barbara, we all had a grant funding conversation, and where could we best fit that? It just fit best within this grant, and we added it in there.
When we've seen the value and the power of standards-based planning, we put our eggs in that basket.
Yeah. Yep. And so, these numbers, we try not to spend it all, we try to allocate enough to make sure we get accomplished what we get accomplished. We did allocate $8,000 for paraprofessionals because there are some paraprofessionals who do a lot of academic instruction. There are appropriate times to have them stay and plan with those specific teachers. And a good example of that is in our self-contained classrooms, our PE classrooms. A lot of those paras do a lot of significant instruction with students in small groups, since we do give them the opportunity at times to stay and plan as well with their teachers. But there's always a school leader involved in the standards-based planning process. And then lastly on this slide is the nighttime courses that we offer. And we offer the ESOL endorsement, which is again required by the state. We offer the reading endorsement, which is required by the state, and clinical education, which is required if anybody wants to have a student teacher or to be a lead teacher, things like that. So we pay hourly pay for people who have been through state trainings to teach those courses. So for example, Rosa teaches our ESOL courses at night. She's been trained through the state. Sasha Tack and Melanie Holt teach our reading endorsement courses at night. They're the only two that have been provided in the last 3 years with new state training on the reading endorsement, so that the teachers can really get out of that. The state has eliminated the ability to just use anything online for reading endorsement, because what was happening, people were just going in and click, 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 and all of a sudden they're reading endorsement, they really didn't learn anything about reading, right? And so this is very intentional. It's a very structured course. It takes a full year to get through that course to be reading endorsed. So it's been the feedback on that has been very good. This one here, Priorities of Effective Instruction, we have a variety of coaches throughout the district that are funded through a variety of different resources. This particular grant funds 2 instructional coaches for secondary. The elementary coaches are previously out of our reading plan, which is now switched to part of our EEA, but secondary didn't have coaches at one point, and they were put in here. That was prior to me participating in this grant, and we've maintained those thus far. Hope that we continue. And then the last category is the administrative costs. So that is the indirect costs, Mr. Adams and so forth spoke earlier, 6.37%. That is significantly more than it was the year before that. So that is money that the district collects off of the total allocation of the grant to maintain all the paperwork processes, payroll, all the things that the district has to do for that. And then lastly, part of that would be half of my position is paid out of that, and that includes salary, benefits, and senior management at this point, FICA, Social Security, and all of those things are paid out of that as well. Oh, that's almost it. I got this a little bit. And so in summary, Title II is on hold right now. I will say the funding continues to slightly decrease every year, but again, like Ms. White said, every time we increase salaries or we increase benefits, that impacts the grant in a negative way, because even though the grant doesn't get more, if the salary in the district goes up, all the people that are paid in the salary in the district have to go up. So that is it's a constant balancing act, because if this goes up, something else has to go down, right? We are blessed to have this grant. I am so thankful to be part of this grant. I thank you, the team, for working diligently with that. Just like I said earlier, a lot of these things that the grant funds, we hope to continue, because if not, it's possible that the general fund can pick up some of those things. And our total allocation for this school year is $423,000. We did have about $200,000 roll forward. We continue to save as much as we can every year. We budget it all. We try to save as much as we can, so that each year we have a little bit more to roll forward, because every time the budget goes down, if salaries go up, eventually there may have to be some modifications to what we're budgeting. Any questions for me on Title II?
No, ma'am. Mr. Bassborn, I know that we're rolling up on 5:30.
Don't go ahead and switch.
Yes.
Would we be able to put Mr. Adams' presentation under presentations during the board meeting, since it's like the broad overview?
We could do that, or just, if y'all want to extend this and just start the board meeting late, I think we legally can do that. If y'all are okay with that. And they're both pretty quick. His is not terribly long.
I need a
We'll
break.
take a, can we finish them and do a break in between, allow transition for the meeting? Is that okay with y'all?
Stop.
Yeah, yes. You're telling Roberto Sanchez, he'll take an hour by himself.
Sir, I'm trying to be accommodating, but within measure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon. I've had the honor of working with the Title IV grant for about 4 years or so. It is probably the smallest of the grants that you're going to hear about this afternoon. So I will make this shorter than Ms. Goff's presentation. And so there are 3 major areas that Title IV supports in an effort to try to maintain and accelerate academic achievement. And that is providing kids with a well-rounded education, elective enriching activities that they would otherwise may not be able to afford from the general fund. Improving conditions for safe and healthy learning environments, because we know the students are the best when they're safe in their healthy environment, and also improving the effective use of technology. And so you can see there that from 24 to 25, we did get a reduction in Title IV from the base allocation of 283 to 255. And you can see there the amount of difference. So we did have to trim some things down for this upcoming school year's budget. And here's a breakdown of where the money goes for this current school year, which the vast majority, about 75%, goes into teacher salaries. We provide funding for 2 avid elective teachers at each one of our middle schools. And then 0.4 of my salary also comes for them. We have some money there dedicated for college experiences, for taking high school students to college trips like the University of Florida, University of Florida, Florida State. We also have supplies that we buy everything from PE equipment out of. We pay for subscriptions for the Project Lead the Way biomedical certification program at LaBelle High School, and all the related supplies that go into that. And then we also have some money for professional learning related to AVID and supporting AVID. We work with the AVID site teams at our secondary schools, and professional learning related to AVID. And so here is a graphical representation of where the money is split. And we also have not been awarded yet because we're part of the freeze, but we're hoping that we get them frozen and that we do not continue to see decreases in Title IV, because that may have to affect not only the programmatic things that we had to take the civic education trip that you heard about. We have to move that because we got a reduction of almost $30,000. And so hopefully, that trend is reversed and we're able to continue to offer these enriching experiences to students.
So the admin program is totally funded through this. We would lose the admin program?
We lose part of the admin program. It's not totally funded.
It's a great program. I think the kids love it. It's a great relationship.
All right, so we'll keep it on fingers crossed.
Okay, thank you.
All right, was that 2 minutes?
3.
3 minutes.
I approve.
All right.
Mr. Adams?
You got 2 minutes.
Not gonna be 3 minutes.
He may run a little longer, but,
Come on now, Mr. Adams.
That's how I go there.
yeah.
We'll give you 6.
Okay. 1 minute over.
What I have here for you today was really what should have been during the last board meeting, but because of all the delays that we've experienced in the legislative process, I've been able to kind of get this information for you together for tonight. And I'm just going to dive right into it so we don't waste any time and we can get to your questions that you may have. This is over the last 5 years in the projected FTE for Hendry County. And what we have is Hendry is going to be the blue line. So at the end of survey 3, we have 7,390.6. We are seeing, for the first time ever, projected decrease in that FTE by about 50. In the brick and mortar, we're going to see an increase in the AOF of about 500, another 100 in FES scholarships, which brings our overall FTE count as an increase, but what we're seeing that increase in is in both FES and in the AOF. We also see an increase in general fund revenues, base student allocation increase from $41.62 of $41.62. It's an increase from 5,330.98 to 5,372.60. And that, just a reminder that all of those previous allocations are now lumped into the BSA. And the intention of that was so that funding follows the student. We multiply that by the comparable wage factor. The classroom teacher and other instructional personnel salary increase was about $435,000 for the increase part, and that is wrapped into the BSA. And that equals to $59.17. We did see a projected increase in educational enrichment allocation of $104,970. The preliminary tax increase was 7%. That local funding element is part of the FEP budget, and we are seeing an interest income decrease as the rates are decreasing. The general fund revenues based on property taxes, we have a required local effort. That's what we have to impose and levy in order for us to receive the FEP funds from the state. Then we have a 0.748 discretionary millage, and that revenue based on the projected preliminary cost of the property tax millage is an increase of $247,000, and that is also built into that first conference report. The preliminary receipt from the property appraiser was an increase of 7.3%, but since that preliminary has been released, walking in and what you will see in the tentative budget is more of a 6.33% increase, and that will be reflected in the 29th hearing that we have on the tentative budget. So you will see a reduction in this estimate in the next presentation. Now the general fund unassigned fund balance continues to grow. We have an anticipated drop, but due to some salary encumbrances in the last releases of it, we did have a projected increase. We have a lot of variables currently at the moment. Having a strong fund balance is definitely not a bad thing whenever we are surrounded by financial uncertainty. We have a reserve, we have a 3% requirement from the state, from the local board, 6% restricted fund balance, and that will set aside funds for revenue shortfalls, which we did experience as FTE. Shortfalls, FEP prior year adjustments, we still have not received the fourth calculation, and we do not know what that adjustment will be, if there will be one at all. I anticipate that we'll have a second calculation, which is legally required to us by the 18th before we see the fourth count. So it will be interesting as far as how the budget unfolds and how we do prior year adjustments. And I found out today that we will have an audit extension to do. Just more uncertainty. High level view, the fiscal year 26 general fund budget. We have an FEP increase of about $3.5 million. An DAOF admin increase of about 150,000 based on their 6.6 admin fee and their increased enrollment FTE projections. And then that gives us a net increase in revenues. Our expenditures, we have additional FEFD increase for FES scholarships. That's the just the increase alone. Increase in DAOF, FEFP, and that's not that we're losing money to DAOF. It's just that this is the additional funding that we've received due to their FTE enrollment, and then the additional money that will pass through us, from us to them. We have the salary increase allocation set aside, which is currently at 432,816. The reserve for FTE shortfall, we set aside $1 million to prepare for that. We did not have an increase in property casualty, workers' comp, et cetera, through our insurance. We did have a net change in staff, which were allocation removals, some additional removals, transfers to other funding sources, which allowed us to capitalize on $1.5 million. We had an FP&L increase. We also had an increase in FRS of about 1%, which leaves us in reality with a surplus going into fiscal year 26 of almost 145. Did look at it for Florida back, just kind of a breakdown. The admin fee will increase, projected based on completion and fee, maintenance, things of that nature, of 153,000 for fiscal year 25.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it says here that their anticipated admin fee we're gonna generate is like 2.9 million.
Yes.
Now, it says here in expenditures, less the FP increase for DAOF is like at 2.
So, yeah, so that's just the pass-through. So that's the additional pass-through that they receive for the FAP.
Okay, so that leaves us like,
That's not, that doesn't have anything to do with our admin fee.
no, okay, no admin fees there?
Let me go back to this slide. I want to make sure that I'm clear about it. So, you know that we pass through.
Yes.
Right? So based on their higher FTE count, that's the additional money that's passing through us.
Okay.
And then because of that additional enrollment, our administrative fee will increase. So that 2.9 is just the admin fee, has nothing to do with the pass-through.
So my question is, what I'm always trying to figure out with DAOF, because we're going to be talking down the road about their outcomes and turnaround and everything that we're dealing with them, is the money that we make, like that we make from, so being engaged in contract with DAOF dilutes our FTE, and then they make us whole with the admin fee. So how much of that admin fee, like, are we actually breaking even, or are we making money?
I'm not sure what you mean by diluting our FTE.
So you have so many, the funding you get per pupil for brick and mortar is higher than what you get for online. You don't have like the plant maintenance and everything, you get less money. Am I correct on that you get less money per pupil for?
Take into consideration the additional categoricals, and that we do receive local self-tax.
Because we have the lowest FTE in the state.
But the base student allocation is the same per student, regardless of their.
So why do we have the lowest FTE in the state?
You're on the right track because of the extra money that we get from them divided by, because it is a lesser funding mechanism for online, but then when you do all of them together divided by the money, it makes us look on paper like we're the lowest in the state. But when you back all that back out and do what we get for our students, we're probably in the top 40 or so percent.
And that's because of the administrative fee, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so,
Well, that, and if you look at just at what, that's two part, the administrative fee, and if you look truly at what we truly get funded for our students and what we get for the brick and mortar students. So when you look at the two of those together, we're pretty average. When you add the administrative fee in there, that really catapults us up pretty high on what we get funded. But when you look at it on paper, the way the state divides it out, it makes us the lowest, but we're truly nowhere near the lowest when you look at what's really happening.
so how much do we financially benefit? Like, so if it makes our FT, it makes us whole, and we're one of the highest in the state, like, how much are we financially benefiting?
it's
What's
just
the
under-
actual financial benefit
it's
from
just
being
under
engaged with DAOF? Because my issue is always their academic
So,
outcomes.
right, so the number, if you want a number, it's just under $3 million. So it's just under a $3 million business for us. That's an incredible business right now.
And that is the financial benefit.
Correct, plus four employees that we have, that our discretion to do the extra work that we have to do because of them. So,
There's also other benefits as well.
yeah,
It would, that, as far as just teacher salary, increased allocations, everything that we do, contract negotiations, software products, all of those things.
some of the categoricals are higher because of them. We get TXIA because of them that they aren't eligible for. So there are other extra fringe benefits that we get as well. So the hard number that we get is roughly 3, but it's actually quite a bit higher, just under 3. So it's a.
So we get $3 million for a D.
We get $3 million for an admin fee.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, Swindle.
Yeah.
So that is the check that we get stroked for absorbing their D.
Well, it's a check we get stroked for their admin fee. They
Okay.
earn to be in their grade, and we're gonna talk about that.
Okay,
We
that's
got
what he
some-
said, but it's this check that we get stroked for absorbing the D, and Stephanie used some language, this is much nicer.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
In our capital funds, we see the preliminary is a 7.23% increase. That is, in reality, it's 6.33%, and we'll have final numbers in the tentative budget for that. There's millage associated. So instead of an 800,000 more increase, it'll be more in between the 500,000 and 600,000. Whenever we have that sales tax anticipated to generate 3.4, we still anticipate that. We may actually see more than that whenever we come back for the tentative budget as far as anticipated sales tax revenue. And we are about finalized with our 26 through 30 capital plans and sales tax plans that we have. That will also be part of the tentative budget as well. So that tentative and final budget, here we have, I'm going to continue to build that fiscal year 26 budget to prepare for the tentative budget on July 19th. We have the release of the second calculation, and then July 29th, we have the tentative budget hearing, which will be on a Tuesday. And September 9th, we have the final budget hearing in fiscal year 25 AFR. Any questions?
Have we ever seen any money from the impact fees?
Not sure.
Are they collecting it? Where are we at?
That, to a month and a half ago, I had gotten a report, and then they only had 1 month worth of data at that point in time, so they're still in the infancy stages.
But
I
they're
think
collecting it.
They are now
They're
collecting,
just not
right?
collecting it.
Yes, yes. And we're supposed to get them quarterly or something like that, and so we're probably just now coming up on when we should start getting. And they had told me that a ton of the builders knew it was coming, so they got a rush of
I'm sure they
permits
did.
ahead of time, and then there was kind of a lull, after that they were, and so anyway, that's where we were.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that to make sure we keep you updated on it. Are you finished, Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir.
Can I summarize, or do you all have questions?
Summarize away.
Okay. Ms. Busey looks like she has a question. I don't want to interrupt. No question? Okay.
I'm anxious for the powder room, so let's just.
Okay, all right. All right. Turn the AC down a little bit for her. We'll be all right. In summary, we, as I stated earlier, we're in a very strong financial position in Hendry County Schools. Percentage-wise, on where we are with our fund balance, I suspect we're one of the strongest in the state with the percent that we have there. We're there for a myriad of different reasons. Number one, I want to draw your attention to the fact that a year and a half ago, you supported us in the decision to go to a self-insured insurance fund. That has had significant savings to this district at this point in time. And today, some of our colleagues around the state that did not make that switch, they're looking to between a 15 and a 19% increase in their health insurance for their school district. Hence, the fleet and the organization that we started, they are flooding to us now. And so our organization is going to grow, which will further drive down our health insurance costs. So we're very proud of that fact that we were the founding members of that. Our DAOF business is a strong piece of that also. Without that alone, we would be nowhere near the status that we are. We're proud of the fact that for all 4 years that we have been aboard together, we have given strong raises to our employees. And we're looking forward to doing that again this year, give a strong but yet sustainable raise. And so we're looking forward to that as well. Our district leaders and our principals, we have impressed upon them and the expectations that they have a frugal mindset. We know that we have expenses, we know we have things we have to have, but we don't stockpile, we don't buy things we don't need. We don't hurry up and spend it by June so that we don't lose it, because spend it or lose it. We have gone to the fact that we are a business together, and this is what helps makes us stronger. We have had some very strong interest income over the last 3 years. That's slowing right now, but it has been very strong, and we've actually made some very strong interest income off of that. The ESSER dollars that we were awarded, we were very smart, strategic, and very, very surgical on what we did with them. All of those things added together has put us into a very good situation where we are financially. Just as I have those positive things that we have done as stewards of the money for this district, I'm going to give you 11 reasons why we've got to be very cautious going into this next school year. Because we have a self-insured health insurance fund. One of the very things that makes us strong we could go for a 6-month period where that cost us millions of dollars. So we've got to be careful about that. And we need a good health reserve to leverage against that as a business. Our fourth calc is not yet out. We know that when the fourth calc comes out, we're probably going to lose some money on that. We don't know how much yet. We don't know what that looks like. And so we've got to prepare for that. We want to give raises. That's going to cost us some money. And some of that money is going to come from the TSA. Some of it's going to come from this extra fund balance that we have. We are a people business. The people that we employ are what make the difference in the lives of students in this community. We should invest in them. Their expenses are going up. They work for us. We need to do what we can to support that in a very sustainable measure. And so if we have money, we've got to give raises, or we've got to give raises that we can sustain and be able to carry year in and year out. Last year, our FTE went down just a little bit for the first time in 4 or 5 years. It's projected to go down even more next year. Now, there's a magic ball there that we don't know. We don't have that crystal ball, but the state's telling us it's going to, so we've got to prepare for that. What that means is be even more guarded of our reserve, because as we have shortfalls, that means we will have less income to cover the expenses that we have. The only place for that to come from is going to be that reserve that we have done a good job in doing that. Mr. Busey is an absolute bulldog in the fact that he says, look, Swindle, we are at capacity in all 3 elementary schools in LaBelle. What are you going to do? The only choice we have at this point in time is we need to add a wing at Country Oaks Elementary School. That's going to cost money. We're not sure how we're going to do that yet. So we've got to make sure that we're prepared over the next couple of years, because the growth in LaBelle has not slowed and we are at capacity. So we know that we need to do that. We've got to navigate that. We've already started the conversation. We're already looking, at what's going to be the best avenue. How are we going to come back to this board and say, here's what we need to do to protect the seats for the elementary students in LaBelle? That's coming. I'm just giving you a warning of that, and the fact that, yes, we have a giant reserve right now, but there's things that are going to eat into that very, very quickly. We have some uncertain federal funds that we don't know what that's going to be. Those uncertainties are there. How we manage that, we've got to prepare for a worst case scenario and what that looks like. I'm going to do everything I can to protect the humans that work for us and cut everything else first, but I can't promise you that that won't have to go into the humans, depending on how far those cuts go. That reserve is going to be our saving grace if we have to cover some of those costs for a set period of time. We are building a new LaBelle High School. Right now, that LaBelle High School project was estimated at $90.6 million. The updated cost of that is $123 million. And so we know that the money set aside for the state will not cover it. We are working with the state. We have a lobbyist working every single day right now to make sure that we have that money to cover it. But at the end of the day, group today, we don't have the money to cover it, nor does the state. We've got to make sure that that's there. We don't know what that looks like. If the state continues to cut and they say, well, you will get some of a part of it, or maybe not all of it, we have to be able to finish this high school. Does that look like a loan? Does that look like bonding? We don't know. The giant reserve is going to be our saving grace if we have to leverage our assets to be able to build a new high school. And so we've got to make sure that we protect that. Our FRS was a $160,000 increase this year. The state makes sure, that they fund that FRS, and then they turn right around through the TSA and turn around and charge us, for the FRS piece that happens. So there's 10 or 11 items that, although we're strong, they are unknowns and they are expenses. We just don't know if, when, and how much they're going to cost us. So I'm going to be as protective as I can of that fund balance. We're going into a school year academically that we know we want to continue the pace. That's going to cost us some money. And if we suffer some setbacks, we've got to be able to continue that academic pace regardless. So I come back to you with the same way we started. We are strong financially. We're that way for very, very specific reasons. It's because we've got some good advice and we've had good leadership wrapped around what we're doing. I want to continue that. I want to be able to continue the strong strength position that we're in and leverage that to continue the academic growth. In just a few minutes, we'll take a break, obviously, but when we come back in, we're going to talk about the academic gains that this district has had. I've asked the principals and some of their staffs to stay. These are the faces of the people that are responsible for that. They're the ones who bear the brunt of the task, of the stress, of the work that happens. And I wanted them to be here so that, when this is discussed, you can see the people that's made this happen, and hopefully we can rub some love on them and let them know how much we appreciate the uplifting, work that they've done in our community. So that's why we hear the noise in the hallway, just so you know. And I didn't want you to think that they were coming in for any other reason, So, do you have any questions for me?
So it's not a lynch mob.
Yeah, well, I'm not promising that. No promises there. FRS, the only other thing I can say, we have put the paper in for the administrative piece switch to the FRS. They have acknowledged they have it, they've acknowledged it's there, and they're working on it, and they'll get back to us. That's all we know at this point. As soon as we hear something about that, we'll be sure to let you know. Any questions? You want to take a 5-minute break?
We'll take a 5-minute break and.
Thank you all very much.
We'll call this meeting to order. If you would please rise and we do the invocation and pledge. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. Thy kingdom, power, glory. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Put it on. Air conditioner, crank that down to 68. Trying to have a heat stroke here, sir.
Thank everybody for coming. We will try to get through this. We do apologize about running a few minutes behind this evening. We'll get right to it.
Miss Golf's fault.
Miss Goff's fault.
She was the winner.
All right, Mr. Superintendent, do we have a couple of presentations this evening?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I just want to comment that the workshop seemed like it went fast, though. It didn't seem like that long, did it? It did? Oh, all right. Just checking.
It wouldn't have been bad if I had better regulated my liquid intake.
All right. Got it. To kick the meeting off today, today, as I think I mentioned to you board members earlier, today was the back to beginning of the school year kickoff organizational meeting for the admin teams for the schools, where we kind of look at last year's data, refocus on the coming year, and begin doing some planning and strategic things to continue the climb and the growth that we've had. Today, what you're going to do is you're going to be hearing from Ms. Duncan and Mr. Sanchez. They're going to give you the overview of the academic growth and the academic place as to where we are. And I'll just go ahead and give you another spoiler alert like I did at the last workshop there. Throughout history, Hendry County has always been a C district. We've never had more than one A, and the A, we had an A last year at Eastside, we had an A in 2022 from Central, and the A previous to that was in 2012. And so for whatever reason, and we can come up with all types of reasons, in Hendry County we have an enormous amount of poverty. It's just a fact that poverty students just don't show up to school in the same ready-to-learn mode as a child from Flagler County, where they have influential, affluent folks that live in beach-type communities. We have a high migrant population, and migrants aren't dumb kids, but they've not had a lot of times the schooling or the background that other students have had, and sometimes they're not fluent. And so we can come up with a lot of reasons and excuses, but what this group sitting in front of you did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we kind of threw our suckers in the sand and said, we no longer accept these excuses as school leaders. We know that our kids are not dumb, but we have to do whatever it is that we have to do to help them learn so that we can be high-achieving schools and a high-achieving district. We have gone through a litany of different things, from making sure that we have a district that is focused on academic leadership, academic goals, how our students learn, the tools that we do it to get there, the extra supports that we give our students, the extra supports we give our teachers, so that they have the tools in their hand to be able to make that happen. I'm here to tell you that we have made that happen. We collectively, mainly the folks that we are looking at in this room, have made that happen. This year, we have a wonderful pre-K center, and we have 10 other educational sites. Out of those 10 educational sites, board, 7 of the 10 are either an A or a B graded school. The remaining 3 of the C's are strong C's. They did a good job. They had great, remarkable areas of growth, and they were strong in the fact that we know, and they have some of the best leadership in the district. And so we have full confidence that not only did we have an enormous climb this year, but we're going to continue to climb and have academic growth. Because of the growth that we've had academically at our schools, Hendry County schools, since the first time since grades have been taken and awarded, we are a B-rated school district. I want to put that in context again, and I'm not picking on Flagler County, but I like comparing us to Flagler because they are a very affluent community on the beach in St. Augustine. We are a poverty-stricken Hendry County with a lot of intrinsic issues that you can't compare those two districts. We have the same grade they have with all the obstacles and all the things that are in our way. The fact that 60% of the folks that we hired last year were non-teacher educated, that they were career switchers. The group that you see in front of you took them and made them master teachers and helped them understand how do you educate a child. The pedagogy that we expect, the work that they've done, the lift that we've made, the focus that we have had has been second to none. Your support has been key and pivotal to that. Half-day PDs. I know that was controversial and you were kind of on the edge and fence about that. That has been one of the things that has given these folks the time to focus on data, to look at what it takes to improve. You learned earlier about standards-based planning. That's something that has been brought to our district. The team at Westside has championed that and helps do PD. Today they did a PD again for us all to continue taking that to the next level. Very focused planning and how that looks. Data-driven decisions. Data. We force it on this group that you've got to know your student individual data. You've got to know what gains you can make and how do we move them to the next level. So say what you want to say. Are we playing a numbers game? Are we just trying? Maybe, but at the end of the day, we're moving students' education to the next level in Hendry County, and we're doing a darn good job of it. And I couldn't be prouder of the great team that we have, the work that they have done, the effort that they put in, and I'm not diminishing anyone's work on this board, but I'm telling you the energy that they have, the stress that they bear, the workload that they have is unreal. Every day when they get out of their cars and their feet hits the ground, it's never ending, and it's coming at them from 10,000 directions in a community that has a lot of needs, in an environment around the state, where public education still has a black cloud over it. This group found a way to persevere, make tremendous gains that has never happened in Hendry County before, and we couldn't be prouder of that. We've got some absolute bright spots in Hendry County, and we're super proud of that. We've got some areas of growth. I don't care where we are. I don't care where we wind up. We will always be able to grow. We are not even mentioning the word maintain, because I had some people reach out to me and say, good, now y'all can maintain that. We're not in the maintaining group. I was not elected to maintain anything in Hendry County. We are a growing district. We're going to continue focusing on our efforts on how do we grow academically, how do we grow our schools to a better place every single year, no matter where you are, where you end up. With the growth mindset is one of the ways that we've gotten where we are. And so as a board, you obviously have played a huge role in that. We want to say thank you to the supportive things that you have done that's led to that. And we want to say thank you for the time ahead of us. We know we're going into some challenging times. We know we're going into some uncertain times. What I also know is this group has proven that bring it, right? We talked about it today. They've lived through a pandemic. We come out on the other side better than what we started. We do everything from hurricanes. We've had student deaths. We've had teacher deaths. We've had unspeakable things happen on our campuses. They still found a way to persevere. They found a way to persevere and make it happen. Where's Ryan Harris? 30 days on the job. What all did he face? What all did he face 30 days on the job? Okay, you couldn't have put anything else on a human than what he had to bear in the first 30 days on the job. He took the school from a C to a B. Him and the wonderful staff at LaBelle Middle. And we couldn't be prouder of the work that he does there. There's some incredible bright spots that you're going to learn, and when you see the data today, this evening, and I strategically asked these folks to come here because I wanted you to see the faces. I wanted you to see, the people. That's what matters. That's what's made the difference in our district. And so I couldn't be more grateful for the work that they do. By no means is it me. I'm a figurehead with you, and we do policy type things. They're the ones that bear the work every single day. They're the ones that has made this happen. I don't want you to fire me or nothing. That's not what I'm saying. You can't understand part of that. But I want to make sure you know that the group sitting in front of us are the ones that has made it happen. I don't want to underscore our students. We've got a lot of things stacked against us, but I want to be clear. We don't have dumb students, right? That is not the point. Just because we have poverty or we have ELLs or whatever, they're not dumb kids. But there's obstacles in the way that they face that other kids don't face in other parts of the state. And so the fact that this group was able to overcome those obstacles and find ways to still get to where we were able to achieve this year is amazing. And so I hope that you guys are as proud as I am of that. And so I think we're ready to hear from Ms. Duncan and Mr. Sanchez. If you guys want to come on up, and you'll have less than 10 minutes. Is that what I said earlier?
We can do it.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. With this accomplishment, y'all can take all the time y'all want. Mr. Sanchez can tell some hokey analogies. Football, Nick Saban, something.
Good afternoon, everyone, members of the board. I have a distinguished honor to stand in front of you and talk about some phenomenal data and just tremendous results produced by our students, by our teachers, by our administrators, by our parents. Everyone plays a puzzle in this, in these results here that we're going to talk about momentarily. All right. So before we get into the data, we just want to quickly talk about school grades and what is the threshold? What do you have to have in terms of percentage of school points to be an A versus a B? And we're not really going to talk about C's per se in these grade games. All right. So in order for you to be a B in the elementary realm, you have to have at least 54% of points. In order for you to be an A, you have to have at least 62% of school points. Elementaries are able to obtain up to 800 school points because they are in there's 8 different categories. Each category is worth 100 points. Our secondary schools, middle and high schools, have to have at least 57% of eligible points. Middle schools can obtain up to 900 points, high schools up to 1,000. And then for districts, it's also 57% of points. But districts are graded on a 1,200 on a 12-point scale, which is just more points. We'll look at that momentarily. All right. Because more than 75% of high schools and combination schools earned an A and a B rating for the school grade term of 24-25, there's an elevated clause that kicks in, right? Meaning that for the next school year, for 25-26, the percentage of school points that we have to obtain at the high school level and as a district will increase in order for us to be a B school, from 57 to 60, and then you see the difference there from A, which is a 1 percentage point increase. I just wanted to point that out because that's a very recent development that came out right when school rates were released.
Change the target just a little bit.
Okay. All right. There's a chart graph that you see where the orange is important because you see that 9 out of our 10 schools were able to show growth, and one of our schools just showed a slight 2 or 3 percentage point regression. All right. And so you see there the breakdown that just what we talked about. All right. And then we really just want to get into school by school, showing you just a broad overview of the schools, all about the secondary.
Yep, sure.
Elementaries. All right. And so as you can see, Mr. Harris in LaBelle Middle School did a phenomenal job. They went from 53% of school points to 57, so they were able to meet the B average. As you can see, all categories showed growth there. And so the highest area of growth for LaBelle Middle School was in the area of science, as you can see there. I'm working on 2 different computers.
Let me hold it. Hold your chair. Oh, never mind.
So strong performance there for LaBelle Middle School. When we go to Clueston Middle School, you see that we had some pretty strong performance in the area of math. We had a double-digit increase in science because that was a focal point this past year. We struggled with science in the previous school year. And so we were able to go up 10 percentage points there in science. However, we still continue to struggle with ELA. And I mentioned earlier today that sometimes we can look at all the work that we put into, and sometimes it's difficult It's difficult. All right, but oftentimes you have to look at, sometimes you have to take into account when you look at results, the significant challenges you have to overcome. And at Clueston Middle School, Ms. Kelly, her leadership team's best efforts, we have had significant staffing challenges, right? And so to almost maintain, right, not necessarily we regress a few percentage points, but basically almost maintain that performance from that lens is pretty remarkable when you consider the challenges and the adversity there in terms of staffing that we've had the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah. All right. So. Why do you have 2 computers? So confused.
He created other data after the fact.
All right, so we know that ELA is a focal area for us at Clueston Middle School, and we're really going to focus, and we've got some plans for some new curriculum, some new professional learning. We're going to double down on standard-based planning. We're going to double down on our use of data at Clueston Middle School, and we're going to see us rise to the level that we think is up in the school, and I have full faith in it. All right, I'll turn it over to elementary school.
So LaBelle Elementary School last year did have a grade of a D, and so we did spend this year working with the State for School Improvement, and as you can see, the staff at LES led by Ms. Howard and Ms. Wright have done a tremendous amount of work. Through blood, sweat, and a few tears, they have accomplished some tremendous things. You can see really across the board they've made significant gains. And their total gain is a 16% increase from their school grade from last school year. So kudos to them. The passion that I've seen at LES when it comes around instruction is by far the most impressive thing I've seen coming from, a school that was struggling so intensively. Ms. Howard has really led a culture of instructional they live and breathe instruction now, and it's just been really great to watch her thrive in her role, to see Miss Wright emerge and really take on her role. And so you can see their math lowest 25, their math learning gains, and they really killed it in math, but they really killed it across the board every area that they put emphasis in. So again, job well done by LES. They are that grade level of a B, and we couldn't be prouder of jumping all the way to the D. Not only one grade level, but 2.
It was interesting, all 3 of their math components jumped up over 25 points, almost 30 points in each math.
And that's really comes down to just intentional, purposeful, looking at the data, really thinking about what kids need, and then strategically planning and driving that instruction. And she's done a lot of great things for next year, so I'm super excited to see what next year brings as well. West Side Elementary, led by the wonderful Miss Sanchez and Miss Massey, has also done great things. They were so close to the B over the last couple of years, and every year they had such disappointment in their eyes when they didn't get that A. And to see the excitement in them this year when they really solidified that A was very, very exciting. So super proud of their A. You can see for the majority of their data, it's also trending upward. They have one little bump in at the lowest 25s. They've already targeted and had strategic plans on how they're going to address that next year. But again, they continue to rise, they continue to push, and to be honest, they are one of the strongest reasons our standards-based planning across the district is at the level that it is. They have been coaching other teachers, they've been providing professional learning to our school administrators. So we really thank you for your dedication to sharing your knowledge with others, because like Mr. Swindle always says, with rising tides lift all ships, and so they really helped the other schools become better in their practice with standards-based planning. East Side Elementary, which was our only A school last year, not only did they get an A school last year, but they got another A this year. Not only did they get an A by a little, they got an A by a lot. And so it's been super exciting. Every time I go out to East Side, I'm always amazed at the things that are going on there, just the culture and the academics that that are happening, the way that Miss Mann and Miss Gibson are in the classrooms really supporting instruction is very impressive. And so they, again, have, you know, third grade went down a little bit, but other things have picked their data up significantly for them. And when I say it's a strong day, I go with 71%.
71%, probably gonna be the highest school grade ever.
Ever, yeah.
Wow.
With one of the toughest populations of our student enrollments.
And it's like, you know, last year they were a solid A at 64% of points, right? They grew 7 percentage points.
From it, which is, I think it's unheard of, actually.
Yeah. And a lot of that.
It's true.
But a lot of, check out the math learning, lowest quartile, right? Check out the 21-point gain, because they knew that, hey, 56% of our students in the lowest quartile math are making those learning gains. That's an area we can focus on, right? And if we can focus on that and really identify those kids, and they shared that earlier with us.
It just happened. It was intentional data.
Very intentional. And they shared that with us earlier today in our leadership training.
Central Elementary School, again, another school has been riding that A line for a while and not quite there. Was managed to build in that A this year. They do a lot of the same things. Like their math lowest 25 has significant gains to their math learning gains. And a lot of that really comes down to, like we've talked about, just really drilling down to the data, identifying which kids need what, and making sure those kids get what it is that they need. Every kid can get, you know, a couple of points, and as Alexis was talking about earlier, knowing which kids need what, making sure we're holding them accountable is truly the icing on the cake and how you're going to get that. And so they've done a great job. They are also one of the strongest schools in the area of science for the district, and so we do lean to them, probing them, you know, what are they doing in science, and how are, you know, what can we take from them to figure out for the rest of us how to make improvements in our area of science as well.
Okay, one of our B-rated secondary schools, LaBelle High School. They showed the second strongest growth in our school district, just falling right behind LaBelle Elementary, all right? Went from 53% of school points to 61% of school points in the school. So tremendous effort. As you can see there, ELA, 12 percentage points. ELA is a very heavy lift to move proficiency at the high school level for students that are not proficient. To go from a 42% to a 54% is remarkable. And that just goes to show you that when you double down on same-space planning, when you look at your data, when you are focused on effective instruction, good things happen. Also, tremendous growth in the math learning gains in the lowest quartile there. We saw over 20-point gains in those two categories there at LaBelle High School. So super proud of the work that's going on at LHS.
Country Oaks Elementary, I've had a new leadership this year, a lot of changes going on and a lot of turnover. And looking at their data, they improved 8 full percent. So while not yet a B, well they're the third highest gains in the district when it comes to looking at our data. So we're very proud of the work they put in. They've laid out all the foundations last school year, so starting this coming fall, moving forward, we're really excited to see where they're going. And you can see again with their math learning gains, they really targeted math. One of the things that they did is mid-year they started math small groups, and it was mandatory for all kids, and they regrouped and used the data, and all kids went to a math small group intervention. And so it was really exciting to watch them implement some new strategies, new structures that they hadn't tried before, and evidence shows in the data that it really paid off. So kudos to Country Oaks for your work. And at Up the Grove Elementary, they improved 6% this school year. So again, well on that path to the B, so kudos to them. They did a lot of work this year around data in general. It was a school that, you know, used data, but maybe hadn't used data to the depth and breadth that some of the other schools had, and so they really leaned on obtaining and learning this year. and really working along myself and some other leaders, how to really analyze that data, how to use that data, what to do with that data. And they were just really willing to take on the challenge, and I'm so proud of the work that they put in there, learning all of those pieces, lesson planning. They had a really strong standards-based planning protocol for them after school. And so watching them refine their processes this year is going to be super, super exciting. And you can again see, they made gains across the board, and we look forward to the path because they're going to be that B next year.
Yeah, and there's tremendous opportunities there.
Yes.
Tremendous opportunities there.
Yeah, and if you are not aware, I would like to introduce Ms. Heather Cassidy. If you'll please stand. Just so you're aware, we recently moved APs around a little bit. We have hired Sarah Vikosh to be the assistant. That leaves us an opening for an assistant principal at Country Oaks. We'll be working on that in the next couple weeks.
Okay, and so Lewiston High School, when I was there at Lewiston High School, we were always chasing the elusive B, all right? Because through the 20-plus year of accountability system that's been operating since 1999, Lewiston High School has been a D several times. We've been an F several times, all right? But in the last, since 2012, Lewiston High School has been a C, solid C, all right? And so it's truly a historic moment. Philip Summers and his leadership team are truly history makers in the fact that they were able to achieve, finally, the B rating. And as you can see there, tremendous improvement in social studies, 13 percentage points in social studies. And again, focusing on that lowest quartile, right? We have some of our schools that are C-rated schools that have that lowest quartile math that they can focus on that has great room for improvement. So that's good in terms of going into next school year because we know where those areas are and we know that that can be moved with great attention and strategic. So kudos to Lewiston High School. And then our district grade. Okay. As you can see there in our district grade, we have 12 different components. We grew in every single component minus third grade. Like we went down one little percentage point down. All right. And so our strongest area as a district was learning needs and math. We went up 10 percentage points there. But overall, when you look at what our points were as a district, we were at 660 points out of 1,200 possible points, which gave us that 56 percentage points, which made us 1 point shy from B. You remember that last year? And then we set a goal of 57%. We wanted to at least be a B this school year. And then Ms. Goff was not happy with that. And so we raised it up 1 percentage point to 58% because we wanted to make it attainable. We blew that goal out of the water. 60% of school points this year. We went up to 718 points. So kudos to everyone because everyone did a good job. So we're a B. And like Mr. Swindle said, we're going to continue to climb. We're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to accelerate student learning because every single child in the school district deserves that. Deserves our very best that we give every day. All right. So.
We just want to thank again our school leaders for the work you've done, for the district leaders who support all of our school leaders. We cannot thank you enough for the work, effort, blood, sweat, tears, love, passion, all the things that you put in. It really takes a village, and you are loved and you are noticed, and we appreciate all of you here.
Very good, very good.
Since you didn't ask for questions or comments,
Yes,
I'm going to
ma'am.
volunteer.
Questions.
I'm going to volunteer mine. Imagine that. I want you to speak on progress monitoring versus testing that one time a year that takes like a snapshot of. Do you think that having that progress monitoring model? Because I hear like both sides of the arguments, like, oh my God, we're testing the kids constantly. But do you think that that model is improving the quality of instruction and educational outcomes for kids versus the once a year?
Yeah, I think that, we have a better picture of where our kids are throughout the year, that, we still do diagnostic throughout the year through iReady as well, because it is looking at two different things, but I think the assessment, beginning, middle, and end with progress monitoring really helps us prepare the student. You guys can speak to this if I say and if you disagree with it, want to add on to. But it exposes our kids to the test that they really are going to be accountable to the end of the year. It really helps them become familiar with that and develop the routines of that to help, their stamina with that. And we do disaggregate that data, consistently looking at what standards are they working through mastering. A lot of our schools actually take the state reports and break down student by student where they are with which standard, how many questions did they answer on this standard versus this standard. So I do think, there's a lot of great information that comes out of it to help us drive our planning and our instruction for students.
And just to piggyback off of that, one of the things that we've done the last couple of years is do after PM2 is released. All right. If you all remember back in January, we were here in this room for all day long, right? And every school had to present their PM2 data, right? And most importantly, they had to present what they were going to do to course correct from January until May, all right? Was that helpful, Mr. Miranda? Was that helpful?
Absolutely it was.
Was that helpful? All right.
Because you're really then comparing apples to apples and looking at data versus, two different types of things. And again, we use other data for other things, but it really does help us figure out what we need to continue to teach our kids when it's really standards aligned.
Yeah, and we call those data comps, right? And going back to this notion that rising tide lifts all boats, different schools are able to share on that day. This is what we're doing. This is what's working for us, all right? And then other people took that because we are, over the last several years, we've seen an increase in our collaboration and sharing of ideas and strategies and approaches because, we're all one team. It's all Team Hendry. And so everybody has a vested interest to see other people be successful.
Okay, I'm going to piggyback off what you just said. I appreciate that. Thank you for your insight. You mentioned course correction, and one of the, our schools that has experienced the most challenges, you attributed that earlier to staffing challenges. So what are we doing in that particular instance to course correct the staffing challenges?
Yeah. So there's a lot of coaching that goes into those individual teachers. There's a lot of co-teaching. We put in our resource teachers, our instructional coaches, like at Callista Middle School specifically. This is the work that Ms. Johnson did from January to May to try to augment and lift up math, particularly. You saw the results there in math at Callista Middle School, right? Math was the stronger side of the academic performance. And so those are the type of things that those data comps allow us to be able to design.
Can I address the question real quick as well?
Absolutely not,
Because-
sir. This is, no, I'm just kidding.
So I want to be clear, the staffing challenges is not the challenges of the staff. It is the lack of staff.
Okay, and I'm
That-
leading
that's
into
the
this.
whole-
That's the way I'm perceiving
Right.
it and trying,
No, it
so
wasn't
I think we're on the same page.
The people that we have, the people that work for us are wonderful. We love them. We're blessed to have them. The problems that we have are the people that don't work for us. So it's the blanks that Ms. Kelly had in English and the blanks that we can't get filled. And it's
Sir, stop trying to steal
nationwide.
my thunder.
Yeah, it's nationwide. It's not just us. And we're better off than most regardless.
So, speaking to that, because that's what I was saying, like, that's how I was interpreting staffing challenges. It's, okay, so, how can we incentivize? Because it's, listen, I've had middle schoolers actually living in my house, and that was rough. And, and it was only 2 of them. And so, how do you incentivize, like in an area, you see an area that a school in particular is having a hard time, how do we as a district or a community rally around to incentivize, like, I don't talk about like cannibalism of our staff within the district, because clearly we've got a good thing going, you don't want to pull those people out, but how do we attract, and I'm gonna be frank here because that's just how I roll on this, but that's one thing I want to focus on is how do we support this campus with that staffing challenges and getting that recruitment.
into that school. But also, like, I know that that campus has heavily used international teachers. And I mean, I have the face that people and parents, that they'll tell me exactly what is on their heart, no filter. I love it. And how are the international teachers performing?
I think we had two, I can speak a little bit to that, just because I work with both companies that we use. So we have IAG and TPG. IAG we have up to this point because of lots of different business issues, but also classroom management. We're having a lot of problems with classroom management that we were dealing with at CMS among other schools. So we're no longer doing business with them outside of 4 teachers that principals wanted to keep. And so that was part of it. And then the TPG teachers are phenomenal. And we still have avenues to pull from them. You said that, did I hear you say that CMS was heavy international?
I just knew they had what I perceived and heard on the streets is that they had more than other.
It's not. We have 7. Yeah.
Okay, so
We went through some years right there post-COVID that was extremely hard. It was extremely hard to get teachers. And so at one point, I believe we as a district had up to 28 international teachers, right? And some of our international teachers are phenomenal. They do a great job. Others, like any other teacher, would require more coaching, more training, more development. Okay? It's a mixed result of that.
Okay, so in Palm Beach County, and just something to consider here, but in Palm Beach County, to get people to come out to the Glades area schools, I mean, it's a drive, it's the more challenging atmosphere and geographic isolation from a lot of the talent pool, they offer like a stipend to be there. And is that possible to do that to attract? I mean, is that something like we can look at and talk about in negotiations?
It would have to be negotiated. If you're going to pay a certain, like that specifically, it would certainly have to be negotiated and then funded, is the more scariest part to me at this moment.
I will speak to the retention part, because I think one issue is recruitment, right? But when you get people on board, how do you retain them? And I will just use LES as an example, because my first few years here, there was significant turnover every year at LaBelle Elementary School. The culture was struggling a little bit. The dynamic of the student population was considered, not necessarily average. And I think, as I've seen Ms. Howard change the culture of that school and the love for academics and the belief in all of those students, fewer and fewer people are choosing to leave. And so I think a lot of that is consistent with our schools across the board, that teachers, once they learn the culture of that school, they are wanting to come here. It's how do we educate people about that culture piece to get them here? Because we have so many great things happening in our schools, if we can just get them in the door to see us. But sometimes people just hear on the streets how great certain schools are. They reach out to us, and so I think there are a lot of great things happening and a lot of great ways to recruit just through word of mouth, and the positivity of the district and the academic growth of the district is going to continue to help that as well. Yes, money would help, but I don't know if that's necessarily a possibility. But I think we have great people, and the better we can retain people and get people to love what they do and recruit people that they know, I think that's our strongest.
Well, I mean, retainment is always the best value because recruitment's very expensive. You want, if you get them good, you want them to stay there. That's Callista Middle School is a campus that is, and it's Callista's my community, and I want to see that campus do well, and I want to see them have the resources, whatever it may be, to pull up out of and meet the full potential, because they're close-knit kids. These are the majority of these kids are coming from high performing elementary schools, and so we want to give them the resources that they have, that they need, whether it's the staffing, the recruitment, the retainment, for the continuity for them. But that is just on my heart and a personal priority. I'm sure it's a priority that's shared by the board. So my next comment question, it is a question. Are schools going to who raise their grade going to get money this year.
The school recognition fund is going to Tallahassee. We hope.
We hope, we've not heard it one way or the other thus far.
Okay,
That will be the hope, yes.
all right, that's it.
Could I say something, please? Absolutely. Oh, sorry. Well, I've had the opportunity to sit in all your offices. I really love to come into the schools. I see how hard you're working. I've been in education for almost 50 years. And I don't think there's ever one day that I thought I wanted to be a principal.
Ever.
That is not me. I'm more concrete, linear. I like to do one thing at a time. That's how I do my counseling, that's how I do my psychology testing. So, but here on the board, one of the things we do is we look at finances. And one of the things I looked at a couple of years ago was the senior management retirement plan. Now, I don't know how familiar you were with that, but as we looked at it, the school board was putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into the state retirement plan with a very poor return to the principals. If you're in that plan, the difference was almost microscopic. So, I've talked to Mr. Swindle, we talked about it. Where could that money be better spent? Well, I'm sure he's told you, he'd like to move all that money, move you back into the regular retirement plan, and give you that money in cash as part of your pay every year, which I think is perfect, because you guys work so hard and deserve every penny and more than we can possibly give you. But right now, that our request to change the senior management retirement plan is with the state. And we hope to hear within a few weeks that they'll accept that change, so that money will be going to you. I've had principals call me and ask me how that's going, and as of right now, we're waiting on the state's response. So I wanted you to know, but I know you guys deserve it, and I hope we get every penny for you. That's it. Thank you.
I want to say that he was referring to me about the half-day stuff, because I'll be the first one to admit that I did not believe that the half-days were used the way they should have been. Well, you all have proven to me that the change has been made and they are used the way they should be used. Now, for the professional development stuff, phenomenal. I'm just blown away, and I can admit when things have went a different direction, or if I was absolutely wrong from the very get-go. But I know when you hear about kids watching movies and different stuff, because they weren't really learning anything, or teachers were leaving because it was just a half day, something has changed, and it starts at the top and works down through all of you. So I commend you for making that change with that. And I'm extremely impressed with the data shows it. I mean, the data shows it doesn't lie. So you guys are just incredible. I can't say my hat's off to you. I mean, I know Mrs. Buson's always asking about, show me, the results. Show me the results, right? You showed us the results. You guys absolutely showed us the results. So I just can't say thank you enough. So that's pretty much what I've got to say. Anybody else on that? I think we owe them one big round of applause.
And that's also for the teachers who are watching.
That's right.
A lot of speaker now, I'm sorry.
That was Mrs.
So-
Mrs. Mann? I'll scoot over, girl.
Thank you all very much. I know it's been a very long day. Ms. Rhymes is going to give a CELC update. If you want to stay for that, you're more than welcome to. She says it's going to take 10 minutes or less, so we'll see if she's telling us the truth.
I don't have any analogies.
Can do.
So, close and early learning. We started during this year and how our students did in an environment where it was all just pre-K. And we didn't really just focus on pre-K. We served a total of 200.
You can just scroll up and down.
Scroll up and
No,
Yeah.
move your cursor further down.
Arrows?
Yes, ma'am, move your cursor further down. Just, and then you can just scroll up and down.
Here. Now I'm with you, now I'm with you. Okay, so we served a total of 253 pre-K students. At the end of the year, we had 229. That was 88 students with IEPs. This was not for the end of the year, so I attended over 170 IEP meetings. And services, we served 32 students with behavior needs, speech and language, 68 students, occupational therapy for 16, physical therapy 1. We had 13 students that were considered homeless and had potential, because we don't identify them as ELLs pre-K, but potential ELL students moving in, that would have been 58. So quite a diverse population. The challenges, we were starting from scratch. So we had inherited teachers from 3 elementary schools in Lewiston, and also so a lot of new staff. We had about 15 new hires come onto campus at CELC last year. So my very first challenge and I knew I needed to do was establish culture. So the culture at CELC is nothing short of amazing. Anytime that you come by and visit, all of the teachers and staff are very upbeat, very happy. There's lots of conversations being had on the sidewalk, exactly what we need for our littles. The staff have learned to collaborate and work together, coming from very different backgrounds. VPK and IPK are 2 very different worlds, and yet this year we've been able to see them come together and teachers collaborate, classrooms integrate and work to and have playground time together, students being able to learn from each other in ways that is exactly where my heart is for inclusion. So that has also been a big push this year, is establishing that inclusion. And then, of course, we also got to establish lots of procedures. I thought parent pickup and drop off were going to be the death of me. Mr. Houston, how long was that parent picking up the first day? Like an hour and a half. Or
It was a while.
It was so long, like 100 plus cars.
And you cut it down to like 23 minutes every day, that cheer.
We had to open doors and put kids in cars. And it was forever, but we were able to do that. So that was a huge win. That was a huge win. So those were some successes. One, speaking to something that Ms. Busen brought up, I think one great way to recruit educators is to take people we have in-house and glean from that. So at CELC, we had 4 out of 5 of our permanent sub-paras took their para test and became certified. We had 5 staff members begin teaching degree programs, and actually we've had a couple more start this summer. So these are amazing paraprofessionals who already have worked in the classrooms, that have a track record of being great with children, who now are continuing their education to get their teachers. So I got some coming to y'all, but I'm gonna need some new paras. In next school year, 3 more permanent sub-teachers, I'll only be starting with 3 permanent sub-teachers, and 2 will complete their degrees this school year. So that will only leave us with 1, and then she'll have 1 more year left, but they're all actively working on their teaching degrees. Because of our shortened day last year, we were able to have a lot of professional development time after students were off campus, and we were able to take good advantage of that with teacher collaboration and giving them time to plan together and learn from each other. We had parent involvement activities, I'll let you read them. We are super proud that we hosted Special Olympics, and there were about 400 students on campus for Special Olympics. Ms. Busen joined us and ran tricycle races with small children, and she did attest the fact that it was quite an amazing, it was great.
I didn't let them win, I made them fight for every win they got.
The very last thing I want to share is even pre-K has data. And so I wanted to share with you some data points for pre-K. A lot of people don't know, and maybe some of you do, but just like schools have grades, pre-K, VPK specifically has a provider performance matrix that scores on a quality score, which is the teacher's class observation, which does teacher interactions with the students. The achievement score is what they do on their pre-K FAST, and learning gains from that as well. And those three things go in. My conversation with Mr. Tulata yesterday, ours haven't been finalized, but CELC campus is looking at a score of exceeding expectations for the school year and are on track for an excellent, which is the very top level for our sophomore. Data, we had 117 students tested. You see at Progress Monitoring 1, we had a significant amount of students that were below 10 and 25%. By Progress Monitoring 3, we had no students score under the 10th percentile and only 7 in the bottom 25. And please keep in mind also we do have some ESE students in this calculation. So 98 of our 117 students were considered kindergarten ready, 84% proficiency, and we had no students that required a summer bridge. In Clewiston, we didn't have a summer bridge program at CELC because we didn't have any students that qualified. None were below that 10% mark. Again, IPK data looks a little bit different, but 100% of our students who have behavior intervention plans made a decrease in their behaviors, which means they got more from their classroom instruction. 80% of students made gains in all 3 domains of their child outcome systems assessment, and 75% of our IEP goals were met. And then this is our enrollment for our Gen Ed and ESE students. Do you have any questions?
I have some comments.
Okay.
Okay, so were you there at Dunwoody that night when the task force had that meeting with all the private VPK providers? Okay, I thought for some reason I thought you were there. So back in I don't even know how long ago it was, the group, we have the education task force. It was Commissioner Turner, Commissioner Gardner, Antonio Perez, Tuesday Tritt, and myself.
Oh, maybe I was. No,
Had to block that meeting out. But one of the things that we noticed in Hendry County was the lack of kindergarten readiness. And basically, and that's a fun group, the task force, but we pretty much told like the private providers, like, get it together, you're gonna get into the proverbial crosshairs of the task force. And we had some really high quality providers and we had some really not high quality providers, and we badgered Superintendent Paletti into like, let's consider a VPK model. We can do it within our schools. And so to see this data and like know where the kindergarten readiness started, less than 10 years ago, and to see what's feeding into our schools is awesome. And so I'm also gonna confess, Mr. Basquin made me feel comfortable with his confession about when he was wrong. So I wanna confess as well. And that was when they talked about having a new campus for VPK. I immediately went to numbers because you only get funded for the 3 hours. I'm always wary of, taking away federal funds. And so I was not supportive of doing a new campus. But after going there, I couldn't see the forest, the forest for the trees. I was just locked in on the money and the financial sustainability of a separate campus. But going into and being able to visit, first of all, I love 4-year-old and 3-year-olds chaotic energy. The vibe is amazing. So much joy on one campus. They're just the cutest. But then I realized the reality of that is these kids are they're intensive. Having a 3 and a 4-year-old, just one of them in your house can wear you out. But when you have them all here and they're focused on them and then their individual needs, it frees up the K through 5, where they're, the kids are more mature and more like instruction focused to do better and to focus on those kids. And so that was on me, my bad, for not initially like supporting the initial campus, but honestly, like, they may be my faves. Like, it is just the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life, and I just love the work that's being done there, and that is being a focus, and I love that the data supports that was a wise decision, even though I was not wise in that moment in supporting it. So, all right, anybody else want to confess?
To your point, Ms. Houston, I want to point out that it was actually our Clewiston principal's idea. They're the ones that came to me and said exactly what you said. If we could have a site for the pre-K and we could focus on others, we think that would help them and us. And I think it did. I think they were spot on.
Well, those kids, I mean, they're heavy lifts. Like,
Yeah.
they need a lot of energy and focus, and and the parents they also need a lot of help there with like that young age. So I see how the model works. I didn't initially see it, but here I am being all wrong and everything over here. But I'm glad I was wrong and y'all went without me.
We propose a 7th grade center. Can we separate the 7th?
Thank you, Ms. Rice. So, yes. So thank you everyone for those quick 3.5 hours of the presentations that we just went through. When we met this morning, board, one of the things we did was we got the 3 A schools together, and we asked them, the first question was, if you had to put your finger on one thing that you really would give credit to your school for, the very first thing they went through, what would y'all think it would be? Because think of the data, think of the programming, think of everything we had. What would y'all think that they picked was the first thing out of their mouth?
I would think the teachers,
Great board. Okay, second.
teachers.
So what they came out with first was relationships. It wasn't all the things that we provided. It wasn't the pay. It wasn't the shiny computer. It was they said we have to build relationships with our staff with students. That's huge, and that's one thing that this group has become a master of. 5 years ago, if you'd have said, "How'd you get a B?" They'd have said, "Don't look over here. Don't even look over here." And no, we're not sharing what. And today we have a cohesive group that works together, plans together, shares. We've seen principals leave their schools, go to other schools, and do walkthroughs and look for us and help and do things like that. And so I couldn't be prouder of the relationship that we have with each other, the relationship with the staff, the relationship with the students, and that has been one of the huge uplifting things that has made this group just an honor to work for and work with. And so thank you for your part in that board. Thank you all very much. I know y'all have had a long day. You're welcome to stay for the next 3 hours of meeting if you want to, but if you want to go, this is a great time for you to make your exit. I'll see you all right early in the morning.
Citizen comment, Mr. Superintendent, do we have any citizen comment this time?
I have none at this time.
No citizen comment. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Does any board member have anything they would like to pull from the consent agenda?
I do not have anything to pull, but I do have a comment. So, in regards to item K, the school district strategic plan. And that is the first time we did a strategic plan. I didn't like it. I threw my sucker in the sand. This one, I've made a lot of suggestions for revisions for. overwhelmingly grateful that they have been well-received and accepted. I think that this is a document now that any person off the street can sit down and look at and see where we are and see where we aspire to be, with, you know, the measures of the standard where we're at and the goals. And I like seeing the goalposts move back and the goals more strenuous than what they were when I was having a little hissy fit the first time when I saw them. I was like, I don't think these are aspirational enough, but I'm really happy with the strategic plan. So thank you to Dr. Staley and to everybody who heard me on those concerns. And I think that it's a pretty good plan. I like it. Thumbs up.
I just want to mention under item B, we were asking for a ESC para transfer under allocation transfers, and we're going to pull that one. We don't need that one at this point in time. It's on there for your approval, but we will be deleting that one. Just informing you.
All right. Do we have anybody that would like to pull any items? Nobody that would like to pull any items? We will ask for the superintendent's recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recommend your approval of the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Do you want to add that?
It's a taken away, so
It's
it's
already
okay.
done. Okay. All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Sammerdyke, seconded by Mrs. Nelson. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda passes. We'll move on to the action items. So we have a hearing, proposed rule development. So, Mr. Superintendent, we have your recommendation on action item 5A.
Yes, sir. I recommend you approve action item 5A, the hearing for the proposed rule development as presented.
Second.
Don't you have to open the hearing?
Get ready to start.
We had that term differently, okay.
So we need to open the hearing for this. So we will now open the hearing on this proposed rule development. We have, we need a
Motion?
we need a motion on that, to open that rule, to open the hearing or anything?
As a chairperson, you just open the hearing.
Okay, we'll open,
Gavel.
we will open this hearing. Do we have any discussion on this hearing? Any public comment? Hearing no public comment, any discussion from the board?
You close the hearing, close, with no public comment.
No public comment. The hearing is closed. Make your recommendation.
Now I recommend your approval of action item 5A.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sambright, seconded by Mrs. Nelson. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, say aye.
What did you
say? This train all over the place. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Put this train back in.
No more energy drinks for you, sir.
Move on. We'll skip the, can we? We'll move on to action item 5B. Mr. Superintendent, we have your recommendation on action item 5B, sir.
Yes, sir. I recommend your approval of action 5B, permission to advertise the 25-26 tentative budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sammerback, seconded by Mrs. Nelson. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to action item 5C. Mr. Superintendent, do we have a recommendation, sir?
Yes, sir. Unless you have any questions about this particular steel building, I recommend your approval of action items 5C. This is for a steel building at Twiston High School.
Second. Motion by Ms. Nelson, seconded by Reverend Brown. Any discussion?
No.
No discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, I'd like to pass this over to Mr. Sammerdyke. This is a relative of mine, so I will be abstaining from the vote on this one.
Item D, personnel personnel recommendation on compensation for Robin McMasterman. We have a recommendation.
Yes, sir. Recommend approval of action on 5D, the personnel recommendation as presented.
So moved.
We have a first and a second, further discussion, hearing none. Call the question, all in favor? Aye. 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 Motion passes.
Get that gavel from them.
Yeah, no, I was worried about that.
Thank you. We will move on to action item 5E. Mr. Superintendent, a recommendation, sir.
Yes, I recommend approval of action on 5E, personnel recommendation concerning Ms. Brown.
So moved.
Yes, sir. Very good, sir.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Ms. Nelson, seconded.
Motion by Busen.
Second by Nelson.
That's what I meant. Motion by Ms. Busey, seconded by Ms. Nelson. We have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we will move on to 5F.
I will actually be pulling 5F. We will not be recommending that one tonight. We're changing that just a little bit. I will bring back to you on the 29th at that meeting a new recommendation.
Fantastic. We have, all the action item business is complete this evening. So we move on to old business. Do we have any new update from the high school?
Mr. Fusion, I think, has a short update for you.
We're still plowing through for groundbreaking. We're working on 100% plans right now from the architect. And the final plans will be able to get out for bid. We're working on permitting for all the civil, for all the dirt work and the underneath groundwork and everything like that. The South Florida Water Management, historical, so it's just a bunch of different permits. We're reviewing plan flips with Director of Safety and a bunch of other different entities, along with IT, and so we're just trying to finalize the final 100% plans. In that time, we're working on contractor costs, owner costs, who's the responsibility for pulling the wire and conduit, and ultimately, the finished product. One of those examples would be the special facilities construction account does not pay for security. So we're doing the conduit in tilt wall construction, we're pulling the wire in the tilt wall construction, but we are actually, the account will be doing, putting up the cameras and paying for the cameras. So that's just a small example of what we're working on for owner costs and contractor costs. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Any federal money?
No.
In this special project?
No, sir, not that I know of, no. No.
So that's the right answer.
Can't be any more clear than that.
Yeah. And the new high school has taken on some legs, and the pre-work with the permitting and the meetings and everything has to happen is a lot. For those of you that have done construction, and Mr. Busen spends a lot of every day now dealing with that, and I sit with him when I can just to keep myself educated and updated on it and help where I can, but he's bearing the brunt of that, and so I appreciate that. And we expect machinery on the ground now. We were hoping August, but because of some delays with the permitting piece of it now, we're looking
end of September,
October-ish.
October.
Okay.
And I know you've heard me say it maybe the last 3 or 4 meetings, and it's been a moving target. I shied away from that comment tonight because I want to be more transparent, and I want to make sure I'm more definite on when we talk about that.
Yep.
But the civil has been, we want to get it right. We want to get it right now. We want to get our 100% in now, and we want to get the right bids out now, so we don't get caught up in the future with getting in a corner with a contractor or a sub.
The main story is we expect to have machinery on the ground in October preparing the pad for the construction site, and we will plan a groundbreaking then. And so just to keep kind of in the loop, give you that it'll be, and that one, maybe the weather will be a little cooler and stuff like that. Yes. So just to let you know.
No portable ACs out there, sorry.
Nope.
This wouldn't be a construction project if it was on time, Mr. Busen.
Well,
yeah.
Agreed, Mr. Bass. I would have done yesterday. Every day costs me a day from opening.
And we have some phenomenal partners that we're working with on it, and so some things take longer. You're right, but the one thing that we have really stressed to them is what will not take longer is the end date. So they can, if it takes them another month now, that's fine, but they know exactly when we're gonna open the doors, and so whatever they have to do to get there, then that's what they're gonna do.
Every construction project has its delays but yet you give them a deadline that somehow the contractors always seem to pull through.
Yep.
So, that's why you hire me to do
That's right.
your projects for you. It wouldn't be construction if it wasn't.
That's right.
Do we have any?
I have one more thing, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Baskin, I'm sorry.
Right.
Mr. Samardike, you asked last meeting about updates from Oak.
Yes, sir.
They are very well aware of that. Once we pass the ball on to the construction, they will give you updates on them in phase, however you want.
So the other phases, these are beginning, who pays for those? Are those independently contracted by us?
What was your question?
So you're saying, we're gonna wait until we're actually building, but the contracts, the land leveling and all this other stuff, aren't they also contracted by them, or are they
Yes.
contracted by us?
They put it out for bid, yes.
So they're doing that. Then why
Yes.
can't they come in and tell us how they're proceeding? Isn't that their responsibility?
We just haven't, they haven't done anything in other than
Well,
paperwork.
they're contracting with all these people, there's delays going
We're just
on.
getting budget numbers now, sir.
Yeah, they're not
We have not
contracting
done any
yet.
bids or contracting or signed any kind of contracts with any other subcontractors.
But they're delayed. Is that not right?
We're
We're
just,
keep pushing this back. It seems like we're gonna do it in August, and now we're doing it maybe in September, maybe in October. So somehow there's delays. Is it delays in there, they can't contract this fast? Who's responsible
I'm ultimately responsible, Mr. Secretary.
for all those contracts?
Not all the contracts, but for the process. And, you know, the process is, we're waiting on, civil was a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
My
Civil
question is,
is.
why isn't somebody here from them? And that's a question I asked you last time. You said, well, no, it's not their responsibility yet. It's just Mr. Buson's responsibility.
Well, so really the delay has been not on the Oak part, but on the engineering part. So we're still waiting on the engineering to get their part done. The Oak's part so far, they have done everything and they're on point waiting on engineering to get finished.
But Oak contracts with engineering, don't they?
No, we did that. We
do
are directly engineered.
Well, that's why I asked you whether it was our responsibility or Oak's.
Yes.
Bring them engineers in front of Mr. Samardike.
Yeah.
They will be happy to come down.
Then bring them all.
They have been there before, and they have rolled out the red carpet. They were in Tallahassee, and they would come down if we asked them for that discussion.
Yeah, and that's really, and it's, they're not doing their job, but just it'd take, by the time you're doing the permitting out of the South Florida Water Management District, and we know what that is.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, and so they're working, and we, Mr. Busey deals with every single thing, and they're responsible.
We know he's doing a great job.
Yeah, and so, but Oak has done their part, they're working for the engineering.
That was my
district.
question,
Yeah.
who contracts that part?
Right, yeah.
And it's difficult to get bids on, and you can't get bids on 60% plans. So
Right.
we're waiting on it, it's a process. And I don't like the process of the delay, but or the timing. Like Mr. Swindle just said, they have the end date in mind, and they know the end date that we have to have, and it's all hard.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You were going to ask a question?
Yes, I was. So we're talking about almost 100% drawings complete. We're getting real close on that.
Correct.
So do we have any updated renditions? I know we've probably made some changes and things like that. Do we have any updated renditions?
They're working on a new one, the engineer's working on a new rendering for us.
Okay. All right, when we might see that?
Hopefully by the end of July, we'll have 100% plans.
Well, I was just talking about new renderings, so we
Yeah.
kind of look.
New renderings, I can work on.
You asked them to replace
That's,
that, so-
I have not asked them for that because I don't want any other delays.
Yeah.
I want them working on the actual blueprints. I'm a little selfish there, Mr. Bass, when I want my blueprints. Well,
I've told them
I'm
all.
sorry, I want our blueprints.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, the blueprint's more important than the picture.
I told them to get it. I told them I wanted the picture. They're getting it.
They're getting a picture?
They better get it.
Okay, all right. Well, I will agree with you, the blueprint is much more important than the picture, but it would be nice to see that picture. With whatever changes we've made, unless you guys have got an update on some of the changes that you can tell us about.
It has moved around, it's not this flat shape that, or it's not as, it's almost like an L shape now.
Okay.
We made some changes, parking lots have also made some changes and moved around there. Let me work on getting the picture, it's hard to explain. Of what we've done, you know, we've moved all the detention and retention areas in the back, the sports stadiums are in the back. We have our parent drop off is like 154 cars or so, please don't hold me that number. So we can house 154 cars on our parent drop off, so they're not on Helms Road.
Wow, that's a lot of cars to be sitting in line waiting.
134, I might lie to you, 134 maybe, but it's a bootload, so we keep on the Helms Road. Just working on trying to make it the best site we possibly can and make it conducive to local.
But if you look under that rendering, that's the school bus that we created a year and a half ago. That it's all, if you look, that's the timeline of the expectations. We're actually pretty close to on target. And so even with the delays that we wanted to have happen, we're still within a couple of weeks of the target. So we think that we're still okay and we shouldn't have any problems ending up where we want to end up.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your.
Anything else from anyone?
All in all,
Thank you all.
we'll move on to attorney updates. Madam Attorney, do you have anything for us?
My only update kind of ties into what Mr. Busen was talking about with the construction of the LaBelle High School. Last meeting, I had a note and a question from the board to figure out whether we can legally require Oak to give Hendry County people preference for subcontractors. That's what I wrote down. The short answer is no, we can't do that. And we have no legal authority and statute and contract. It's not possible for us to do to limit that, but Mr. Busen did kindly provide me with a list of all of the bidders who have input their information through the app or whatever we're using. And whenever I'm reviewing the location, it largely looks local, so I think that's something that the board was interested in knowing. Most of the people who are submitting their information and criteria to be a part of this project are local. But we are going to need help, I think, and Mr. Busen and Mr. Spindle can speak more to this as well, from a multitude of different resources and subcontractors and people, because the capacity of the project is so large. So we can't, even if we could, which we can't, we could not simply logistically limit it only to 200 people, just from the scale of the project.
No, I believe I did mention quite a bit about that, because I know in large government projects, when you have small businesses involved in it, you know, especially in government projects, some of them require a certain percentage of small businesses to be involved, and it gives them a little bit of an opportunity to bid against some of the bigger contractors and helps them to be competitive in some things like that. So that's why I was wondering, can we put something like that in there, or do we have anything in place like that?
No, we can't. Our contract with Oak is what governs largely, and there's nothing in it that says that we can dictate who Oak selects for the project.
There's nothing in there in the contract we have with Oak, but what about state?
Well, we have contracted with Oak, that's the contractor. They're responsible.
We can't put those terms or those stipulations in their contract? Because it's our contract,
The
right?
contract's already been executed. There's an existing contract that the district has with Oak. There's nothing within our existing contract that gives us the opportunity to dictate who Oak can hire as subcontractors.
So the contract's already been done and it's over.
Right, but even if
We
you-
missed that opportunity to
No,
put that.
no, we would not be able to provide those stipulations within the agreement anyway, because we don't have that authority to do so. And that would really backfire on us, because again, if we were to put those kinds of constraints on an Oak, we would not have the capacity to perform the scale of the project.
Right, well, I'll find some documents on that, how they do that with like Water Management District, Corps of Engineers, because they do put in there a 20%, and then if it doesn't the people aren't there, they're not meeting the requirements, and they can't fulfill that position, then they, obviously, they continue on.
Right, and I think your ultimate goal is going to be met because of the locations of where people are bidding from. They are local, so 80% that you have in mind is going to be satisfied just from the nature of who is bidding for the project.
Good. And that's
It's
what.
largely local, right?
That's my concern. I want as much of these people around here that have small businesses to get as much of that pie as they possibly can.
Right.
That's been a goal of ours all along, and Oak has really done a good job. They've had multiple contractor outreach meetings already. They've met with them in our office, they've been on site with them a couple of times now. And so they have listened to us and done a really good job of grooming the local businesses on how they can be a part of this.
Good. That's why I showed you that first meeting. I want to
Yeah.
see, you know, and I don't have any other things to say this morning.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
You'll get started.
Awkward. And I don't have any other updates that are noteworthy or separate.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate
Anything else?
No, ma'am, anything you guys need to know, I'll try to find it out for you.
Do you have another water bottle?
All right, we'll move on to board member business. We have Florida School Board Association. Mr. Superintendent, we need your recommendation for this.
So what I will do is ask you what your recommendation is. Currently, your advocacy committee representative, Mr. Sammerdike, and the alternative is Mr. Brown. And so really it's board discretion on who that is. So y'all can guide us on who y'all want that to be so that we can update that document with the Florida School Board Association.
I make the motion to keep it the way it is.
I will second that motion. Ladies have spoken.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
I see yes, none.
Sorry.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Daniel.
You're overruled, sir.
Nice job, Lisa.
Okay, we'll move on from there. So, Mr. Superintendent, do you have anything that you'd like to?
Just a quick wrap up. It's been a long day. We've been meeting all day long with that group, and then we ran from there to here for the budget hearing. I hope the budget hearing was informative and helpful. I'm sorry for the ambiguity, but that's where we're living right now with that. Thank you for this board meeting. I can't stress enough how proud I am of our students, our staff, our teachers, our leaders that has led the unbelievable academic growth that we've had. It has put Hendry County into a phenomenal spot that we still live under a black cloud of public education where it's just not that positive going on right now, but we've proven that it can be positive with the relationships, the support. You do very delineated work, and I couldn't be prouder of what's happened in Hendry. And I'm proud of that staff, and I'm proud of the support that you guys have provided to make that happen. That's all that I have for now, unless you have questions of me.
No. I'd like to echo that. This is historic territory for Hendry County Schools, and I could not be prouder as a board member to sit on a board that's part of that, you know, to see that happen and go forward, and I think it's just going to continue to get better. I'd like to thank you and your leadership skills and the team that you've put together with Ms. Duncan and Mr. Sanchez to help with the collaboration of the schools and everything. That's what helps make that possible.
100% right.
So,
And a whole bunch of other directors too.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, but those two dealing with those teachers, the principles of that day in and day out, and making sure that, because you were right. I remember sitting here, I thought they were going to string me up when I first got on the board, talking about, they were talking about summer school stuff, like, just get a teacher from over there. Oh my goodness. I thought they were going to run me out of town. That was a no-no, you know, but hey, it's coming around. So thank you guys, for all of you, for everything you do. It's fantastic. I do have one other question, and I don't think anybody's going to have the answer to it this evening. Some years ago, we went into some contracts with FP&L for savings for water and power, they, all kind of different things we implemented. It was supposed to save us quite a bit of money.
Boy, I
It was
can't,
before Mr. Busey was in the position he's in. I think it was Mr. McCarthy was in that position. So I don't know if anybody recalls any of
yes, I do. This is absolutely a burr under my saddle right now, and your question is going to be, did that exercise of doing those replacements save us in energy costs?
Absolutely. That's
Great question. I thought you would never ask. The short answer is maybe. We really don't know. They had the ability to run some analytics on the power wattage used. Whether y'all may or may not know, but they came to us and they did bring some of the data. It was the year after COVID, so the data was really skewed because our schools were closed down for 3 months, and so the data was, they even said, we know this is not accurate, but it shows less use. We're like, okay, we get it. In that same conversation, they said, we're so proud that we were able to work with y'all, and we got this done, and you're showing less usage. We love y'all. Thank y'all very much. By the way, we're going up on our rates. Your bill's going up next year. And because they raised the rates. And I lost my ever-loving brain sitting in my office in there, and for one of the very few times that I've acted and reacted that way. But it just flew all over me that they made enormous amounts of money that we're still paying the bill on, by the way, for them to do that work. They come back and raise the rates on us, to more than increase the rates. We're humming along good. This year, month and a half ago, 2 months ago, we get a wonderful letter that says, oh, by the way, FPNL and all service providers every 4 years get to renegotiate their rates at the Public Service Commission. And we're going to get they are proposing that we get an 18% increase in our rates. And that's only in LaBelle, by the way, because we don't have FPNL on this side of the district. The number off the top of my head, Mr. Adams, was $260,000 for the first year of the 18% increase. So again, for the second time over the same situation, I lost my ever-loving mind. I had to take an extra heart pill that night. I couldn't help myself. I called, our rep with FPNL and said, are y'all kidding me? Here we go again. There's got to be some sort of help for, school. No, there's not. Sorry, eat it. I called the Public Service Commission and really got my blood pressure going, because the Public Service Commission explained to me, because I said, I understand rates are going up. There's more expense. And they said, well, if you look at your bill, that's where the expense is. Fuel is a non, because they transfer all fuel costs straight to the consumer. So you get a fuel bill on that. If you have FPNL now, they have a hurricane charge. They have a storm charge for the extra cost it costs them to repair things of storm. And so the normal minutia cost of that is in your bill you currently pay. The 18% is the profitability rate that the company is allowed to negotiate. So the increased rate that we're going to be paying in Hendry County Schools is for the profitability of the company. And you can't think of anything that really gets me going more than that. We don't have the ability to go back to the state and say, oh, because of the profitability that our power company wants, we need to negotiate. I could almost swallow it if they said, look, the concrete poles so that we don't lose power during a hurricane. I would have been like, dadgummit, okay, I don't like it. But that's different. We're already paying for that separately, right? That's bad. FGCU is going to have a $500,000 increase. Miami-Dade schools that FPNL serves is almost a $9 million increase in power alone for the profitability of the company. And so I received some very good information from the Public Service Commission. I encourage each of you, we have the ability, and I'm going to write a complaint because the hearing for that's coming up within the next month or less, and they want to hear the downside of that. I'm not against profitability. I get it, right? Companies have to be profitable, but that's ridiculous, and we need to make sure our voices are heard. We need to encourage our constituents in the LaBelle side that's going to also suffer from this to do the same. Your fellow school board members that's impacted by FPNL, they need to do the same. That's wrong. Your house is, that's right. Yep. And it's going to go up more now because of it. And so I would recommend, that I'm going to do it on behalf of the superintendency. But if you guys have the opportunity to do that and to talk to any colleagues you have and hear, let your voices be heard, I just think that's wrong. Nowhere.
Contact information?
Absolutely. Yes.
I'll write a letter as soon as I get my stock purchased at FPNL.
Yeah. Yep.
from that little investment.
So,
So speaking to that, Ms. Tanner, have you reviewed that contract that we had with FPNL? Because I'm thinking, like, the way I'm remembering it is that if they didn't decrease our rates, they were gonna give us money.
I'd be surprised if it's rate rather than usage.
Or our usage, if they didn't decrease our usage, then they were gonna give us the money.
Yeah.
But we're not accepting that they said they decreased our usage in COVID because there was nobody in the school.
Yeah.
So if it would be agreeable to the board, I'd like to have Ms. Tanner look at that and see exactly like where we're at on that, and if we have like any action on that, that we can.
Mr. Busey works very close, I say closely, he works with the gentleman that is our rep, and he can put together the actual power usages, and we can ask him for a comparison where we can see what that is.
And I'll be willing to, or not me, what am I doing this? Mr. Busen, get with it. Reach out to the city, because now the city of Clueston has the smart meters, and so they can pull what we're using, like, comparison.
Do that comparison there.
Yeah, so it wouldn't like be out there like looking at the alt, so you could even compare on both sides of the county, so it just wouldn't be an FPL, because we did it countywide. And so we can compare what FPNL is reporting versus what City of Clueston's reporting. Just my
It
thought.
wasn't only power, it was water too, I believe.
Everything, yes, all
Water
utilities.
and power.
Yeah, well, it's,
Yes.
How long is the contract?
since
5 years.
May
About
6
5
to
years
7.
ago, I think it was.
We're close to it right now.
Yeah,
We're
because
close.
it was entered during COVID, then
It was the year before COVID they finished it up, so we may be out of
we
it. We'll
might
see.
be out, it sounds like.
We'll have to
I'll
get you.
look into it.
Okay.
Are we still paying on that?
Yes.
Oh,
How would
Lord,
we
now
pay
I'm writing a letter
for
for
our
sure.
contract? We set up a long payment
Personal
term.
insurance.
I'm not sure if it's initiated, but I'm not sure.
Basically did all the work, we're basically paying them for the work they did overall. So right now increase rates as well.
Well, I thought the contract was good for the length of the loan we were paying.
I'm not sure y'all did that before my seat here, but we'll have to find
But
out.
Mrs. Tanner would be able to find it in the contract, I'm sure.
I'll look at it, and that contract is entered into long before we.
Yeah, it was before, yeah, it was
Before you.
prior, I think it was before you too, wasn't it? Yeah, I believe it was. I know it was before you. So,
LED lighting was a huge, low-hanging, cost-saving fruit.
yes.
It has, we have done a few different other studies, and we have LED lighting in 10 out of 11 schools.
Right.
And it is a very, when people come in and want to save you money, we'll put LED light on, we already have them for like,
Yeah, oh yeah, LED definitely is a cost savings for sure, I agree wholeheartedly. Okay, thank you guys very much, I appreciate you checking in all of that. Mr. Sambright, did you have anything?
I just thought it was a great meeting. The information we got, we're now a big county. It is wonderful. I couldn't be happier. People work so hard. Our teachers work, our kids work, our administration here has worked. We're moving on. I think it's great. I just want to recognize that. Thank you.
Ms. Nelson?
Ms.
Nelson's
tired.
Awesome meeting, time to go. Time to
So you thought, sir.
All right, yes.
go. Oh, man.
I just, I want to commend the efforts of the different schools, and I want to commend the board. I remember not so long ago, I don't feel like we were having the higher level discussions that we're having now, and so I appreciate that, and just wanted to give everybody here just a little thumbs up, like Houston approved. I'm liking it, and and my good friend Rev here just keeps me grounded. But other than that, I was going to bring up the FP&L thing, but Mr. Baswin insisted on stealing my thunder, so that I have nothing.
Y'all welcome, I was quicker, I'm sure. Sure.